Ji fell into a vegetative state after saving the campus belle. I still honored our engagement and married him, caring for him dutifully. 3 years later, he woke up, wrote everything into a novel, and it became an internet sensation. Later, at a book signing, Ji publicly confessed his feelings to the campus belle, who had since become a film queen. He confronted me, demanding to know why I had trapped him in a marriage, ruining his chance to be with the campus belle. I was branded the other woman by the entire internet and hounded to death by online abuse. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Ji got into the car accident. I brought Mrs. Ji, who had come to demand the marriage be honored, straight to the campus belle. This, I said, is your true daughter-in-law, the love of your son's life, unwavering until death. 1. Xiaoning. Auntie hopes you can fulfill your marriage agreement with you ahead of schedule. A pleading voice sounded in my ear, and my eyes snapped open. What greeted my eyes was a pristine white ceiling and the anxious face of Madame Ji looking down at me. Is this a hospital? My mother stood firmly in front of me, shielding me. Xiaoning will not marry. Our Wen family is calling off the engagement. Upon hearing the words, call off the engagement, Mrs. Ji became even more aggressive. The Wen family has received countless favors from the Ji family over the years. Now, the moment something happens to you want to break the engagement. Have you all no conscience? Without a second thought, my mother replied, that's right, I have no conscience. Ji is a vegetable now. As her mother, there's no way in hell I'm letting my daughter marry into that living nightmare. You can beat me to death, but I will never agree to this marriage. Their sharp, piercing argument was giving me a splitting headache, but it also allowed me to quickly grasp the situation. I had been reborn, sent back 10 years into the past. I was back at the very beginning of all my suffering, back to a time before I had married Ji. The Ji and Wen families arranged a marriage for us when we were children. The plan was for Ji and me to marry right after we graduated. To everyone's shock, before we could graduate, Ji was in a terrible accident and fell into a vegetative state. Mrs. Ji quickly came to our door, wanting to move the wedding date up. She insisted I marry Ji in a bid to bring him luck and recovery. In my past life, my mother firmly refused. She got into a heated argument with Mrs. Ji right there in the hospital room. Later, Mrs. Ji approached my father, stating that if I refused to marry into their family, they would terminate all business collaborations with the Wen family. Over the years, the two families have worked closely together. Cutting all ties would deal a devastating blow to the Wen family's operations. The Ji family is clearly prepared to burn all bridges. On top of that, the Ji family provided substantial support to my father during the Wen family's early entrepreneurial days. My father felt we owed the Ji family a debt of gratitude, and that we shouldn't kick them when they were down, so he managed to persuade both my mother and me. After I married into the family, I took care of Ji dutifully and conscientiously. I had resigned myself to a lifetime of widowhood, but 3 years later, Ji woke up. He woke up with his memory in disarray, struggling to come to terms with the fact that he was married, so I moved out and stayed elsewhere for a while. Later, after he finished his rehabilitation, he brought me back to the Ji family home. I had always thought that fate had been kind to me, allowing Ji to wake up. Little did he know, his awakening was just the beginning of the nightmare. 2. Ji wasn't struggling to adjust to married life at all. He was simply heartbroken over not marrying the woman he truly loved. As it turned out, his car accident was no accident. It was all to save the campus belle, Shenruyue. Even though Ji and I were engaged, we didn't attend the same university, so I had no idea that Ji and Shenruyue had a beautiful love story at school. That day, Mrs. Ji received a call saying that Ji was ill. Mrs. Ji was tied up with business negotiations, so she asked me to deliver some medicine to Ji. Since female students aren't allowed upstairs in the Tsinghua men's dormitory, I found a classmate to take the medicine up for me. That guy asked me what my relationship with Ji was. Without thinking much, I just told him I was Ji's fiancé. To her surprise, Shenruyue had also come to deliver medicine to Ji. Upon hearing my words, she learned that Ji was already betrothed. Feeling deceived, she blocked Ji in a fit of heartbreak and went to drown her sorrows at a bar. Having taken his medicine and slept through it all, Ji was completely unaware of what had transpired. After hearing from others that Shenruyue was at the bar, he dragged himself there despite being ill. Determined to find her, Ji pulled her out of the bar, demanding to know why she had blocked him. Shenruyue didn't want to hear Ji's explanations. She shook off his hand and moved to hail a taxi to leave. As the two struggled, a car came speeding straight toward them. In that critical moment, Ji pushed Shenruyue out of the way, but he himself wasn't able to escape, and just like that, Ji was left in a vegetative state. There were no security cameras at that side door of the bar. No one knew that Ji-yu had gotten into the car accident while trying to save Shinryu. Later, the film held auditions at Tsinghua University. The director took an instant liking to Shinryu, promoting the newcomer to play the female supporting lead. After the film's release, her stills were hailed as iconic, marking a peak debut in the industry. By the time Ji-yu woke up, the Shinryu he saw was already an award-winning actress married to a tycoon. Unwilling to let it go, Ji-yu turned everything that had happened into a novel. When fans discovered the author was a man and that the story was based on real events, the novel exploded in popularity across the entire internet. Later, at a book signing event, Ji-yu publicly confessed his feelings to Shinryu. He confronted me, demanding to know why I had used marriage to tie him down, preventing them from being together. He completely disregarded all my efforts over the years and pinned all the blame on me. I was cyberbullied by his fans and became a target of hate across the entire internet. They even doxed my home address. When I went out, I was surrounded by various anti-fans who threw rotten eggs at me. While trying to escape from them, I was involved in a car accident on the road. The car was totaled, and I lost my life. To my astonishment, when I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back to a time before I married Ji-yu. This time, I will break off the engagement. I will never marry Ji-yu again, nor will I step into that living hell a second time. 3. Gathering my thoughts, I pulled my still arguing mother behind me. Aunt G, it's not that I don't want to marry him, it's that Ji-yu doesn't want to marry me. As my words fell, the entire hospital room fell silent. Madame G's sharp gaze fixed on me. She scoffed coldly, gesturing towards Ji-yu lying in the hospital bed, connected to a ventilator. Wen Ning, there's a limit to your nonsense. I replied without a change in expression. If you don't believe me, Auntie G, you can ask around at the school. From what I understand, Ji-yu has a girlfriend. In fact, the reason he got into this car accident was to save her. Ji-yu would risk his life to save the one he truly loves. Do you really think he'd ever want to marry me? What's more, we had a formal engagement, yet Ji-yu secretly had a girlfriend on the side. That counts as cheating, doesn't it? So, I'm not breaking off the engagement. I'm rightfully calling it off. Madame G clenched her fists tightly and didn't answer me right away. She couldn't believe her son was capable of doing such a thing. Sensing Mrs. G's skepticism, I proposed directly, if you don't believe me, Auntie G, we can go to the school and ask. It'll clear things up right away. After all, I don't have the power to bribe an entire school of students to speak for me. With that, I took my mother's hand and turned to leave. I wasn't the least bit worried that Mrs. G would refuse, because all she needed was a woman to marry Ji-yu in a bid to improve his fortune. Of course, it would be even better if that woman was the one her son truly loved, especially if Ji-yu's misfortune was truly a result of saving Shinryu. There was no way she would let Shinryu walk away unscathed. 4. What a coincidence. Just as we arrived at school, we happened to see a guy confessing his feelings to Shinryu. Everyone around was chanting, "Get together, get together." I quickly pushed my way through the crowd to interrupt them. Hold on, shouldn't both people be single before getting together? The crowd looked at me, who had suddenly appeared, with bewilderment. Seizing the opportunity, I pulled Mrs. G over to stand before Shinryu. Allow me to introduce you to, this is Mrs. G, Ji-yu's mother. I pointed at Shinryu again. This is your real daughter-in-law, the love of your son's life. Shinryu's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Ji-yu and I are just friends. You're his fiancé. I raised an eyebrow and raised my voice. Just friends. What kind of friends cuddle, whisper sweet nothings, and frequent hotels together? With my revelation, one of Ji-yu's classmates in the crowd spoke up. I was just about to say, isn't Shinryu Ji-yu's girlfriend? Other voices chimed in one after another. Didn't the news of them getting together even make it to the confession wall? That gorgeous couple had so many classmates totally obsessed with them back then. Now that you mention it, I remember too. I actually saw them on a date once. I couldn't help but take a second look because they were both so good looking. Shinryu's face turned ashen, yet she still forced herself to explain. We were together, but we broke up. Is that not allowed? Who says a couple can't split up? Hearing this, Madame G was now convinced of what I had told her at the hospital. Her eyes darkened, and in an instant, she dropped to her knees before Shinryu. Auntie, I'm begging you, please come to the hospital to see Au. He loved you so much before the accident. If you come and talk to him, maybe it could help bring him back to consciousness. Mrs. G's voice was filled with grief, and the sight of her pleading desperately for her son made the onlookers' hearts ache. Even if you've broken up, you can still go see him. You were together once. How can you just stand by and do nothing now that Ji-yu is in trouble? That's right, that's right. A parent's love knows no bounds. It's truly heartbreaking. Mrs. G is pleading with you like this. You should really go and see him. Pressured by their words, Shinryue found herself unable to refuse. With a pale face, she had no choice but to help Mrs. G to her feet. All right, I'll go. Is that good enough? Tears glistened in Mrs. G's eyes as she tightly grasped Shinryue's hand. You're a good girl, such a good girl. No matter if AU wakes up or not, I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life. After hearing that, Shinryue's earlier displeasure melted away, and she willingly let Mrs. G lead her off. Once the two of them left, the onlookers also dispersed. I stood there, watching their retreating figures with a cold smile. The G family business was built from the ground up by Mrs. G alongside her husband, after her husband's passing. She single-handedly held up the G family enterprise. She's certainly no ordinary woman, since she knows about the relationship between Shinryue and Jiyu. Her intentions in taking Shinryue to the hospital go far beyond a simple visit. She'll likely resort to underhanded methods to force Shinryue into marrying Jiyu for a so-called auspicious union. Let the star-crossed lovers finally be together. I can't wait to see what kind of mess Jiyu gets himself into without me there to keep him in check. 5. Shinryue never came back to school after that day. Rumor has it she's willingly staying at the hospital to take care of Jiyu. I knew it. Mrs. G had stepped in. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Mrs. G sent me a thank you note, along with a wedding invitation. I made an excuse and didn't attend. On the other hand, my father, feeling he had missed his chance to repay the favor, started visiting Jiyu at the hospital regularly. My mom was worried my dad might do something rash, and she still wanted me to repay the G family's kindness. Every single day, she nags me to find a partner and go on blind dates. It scared me into burying myself in work just to escape the matchmaking pressure. Once I got busy, time just flew by. During that time, I leveraged my memories from a past life to step into the entertainment industry, investing in several films destined to become blockbusters. Among them was a low-budget, high-return teen campus film. The casting auditions for this movie were conveniently held at Tsinghua University, which happened to be Jiyu's school. It was right here that the director spotted Shinryue, the campus belle, and knew she was the one. He championed her, a complete newcomer, for the role of the female lead's best friend. This launched Shinryue's journey to becoming a film industry legend. But this time, with me in the picture, Shinryue can forget about landing that supporting role. 6. The audition was about to start when I arrived. Before I could even step into the audition room, Shinryue stopped me. Wen Ning, what gives you the right to audition here at Tsinghua University? She's holding a grudge against me over what happened last time. I crossed my arms and retorted, why not? Just because the audition is at Tsinghua University doesn't mean it's only open to Tsinghua students. Tsinghua is a century-old institution, and many campus dramas are filmed there. It's just more convenient for their own students to audition, but they've never restricted who can try out. Shinryue snorted coldly, what a sharp tongue. Believe me, with one phone call, I can have your audition eligibility revoked. Even I, as an investor, was taken aback by Shinryue's sheer audacity. From what I understand, she comes from a poor family and doesn't seem to have any connections in the entertainment industry. Mrs. G is solely focused on her son's interests. There's absolutely no way she would support Shinryue's acting career. Shinryue probably came here behind Mrs. G's back. So, Miss Shin, are you saying the entire production team answers to you, and the investors too? Shinryue tilted her chin up smugly. Good. You understand the situation. If you call Mrs. G right now and volunteer to marry Jiyu, then I might just give you a chance. Me, marry Jiyu, that would be bigamy, wouldn't it? Don't talk nonsense, Miss Shin. Right now, you're the beloved future daughter-in-law in Mrs. G's eyes. Shinryue was left speechless by my retort and pointed at me with a fierce glare. Wen Ning, I'll have someone throw you out right now. Just you wait. I curled my lip sarcastically. Ooh, I'm so scared. Fuming with rage, Shinryue immediately yanked out her phone and sent a message. The reply came swiftly, and seeing it, Shinryue's bravado instantly returned. Just you wait, Director Wang will be here any minute. If you're having second thoughts, you'd better start begging me for mercy now while you still can. Director Wang, I was puzzled. Wasn't the director of this film supposed to be surnamed Jiang, a young, up-and-coming director who has already won numerous awards abroad? This was his first film after returning to his home country, and the beginning of his legendary career. His films have launched countless stars into fame. Even a 3-minute cameo can propel an actor into the mainstream spotlight. Within the industry, he is known as the star maker. Even though I never met this director Jiang in person when I invested, we had quite a few conversations on WeChat. It doesn't make sense that they'd switch directors on me once we got to the set, does it? The only logical explanation is that this Director Wang needs a deputy in front of his title. 7. Come to think of it, the rumor that Director Wang took a liking to Shen Riyue at first sight in her past life seems pretty far-fetched. Soon after, a pot-bellied middle-aged man emerged. Upon seeing him, Shen Riyue hurried over and whispered a few words into his ear. Director Wang sized me up as he listened. I just stood there with my arms crossed, letting him look. New here, I nodded. Fair enough, a newcomer to the investment world still counts as a rookie. Seeing that I was indeed a novice, Director Wang didn't hesitate to start shooing me away. Little girl, you'd better run back to wherever you came from. This is no place for your childish games. If you cause any trouble, you won't be able to handle the consequences. Shen Riyue said haughtily. Did you hear that? Now get lost. Who are you telling to get lost? A man's voice, thick with anger, suddenly rang out. Of course. Before Shen Riyue could finish her sentence, Director Wang swiftly clamped a hand over her mouth. A figure emerged from the back. The newcomer had one hand in his pocket, his clean jawline slightly lifted, carrying himself with a casual yet commanding air. It was none other than Director Jiang Ningyi. Director Wang offered an ingratiating smile. Director Jiang, it's nothing serious, just a sightseeing fan snuck in. I'll have her removed right away. With that, he snapped at me. Get out of here now, or I'll have security throw you out. Hearing this, Shen Riyue immediately realized that Jiang Ningyi was the one who truly called the shots on set. She quickly smoothed her hair and stepped forward to offer a handshake. Hello, Director Jiang, I'm Shen Riyue, here to audition for the role of Guan Jinqing, the second female lead. Jiang Ningyi completely ignored her outstretched hand, turning his head to ask me, what's your take on this, Miss Wen? He was asking for my thoughts on Shen Riyue taking on this role. The character Guan Jinqing is a campus crush, a perfect fit for Shen Riyue in terms of looks, but her acting skills are another story. After all, what made her famous in her past life was those stunning photos. In the other dramas she filmed later, she was often criticized by netizens for being just a pretty face. When her agent found out, they forced her to take a full year of acting classes. That's how she eventually became a Best Actress award winner. In her past life, perhaps the production was strapped for cash and had to rely heavily on newcomers. Among all those newcomers, Shen Riyue was indeed a perfect fit for the role of the second female lead. Not to mention, we still have Director Wang backing us up, but in this life, with my involvement and no financial worries, of course we're going to hire the best actors for the roles. Thinking of this, I shook my head. She's not right for it. Shen Riyue stamped her foot and retorted indignantly, who are you to criticize? If I'm not good enough, then are you saying you are? My looks are too striking and glamorous, which is completely at odds with the character of the female lead's rival. I'm definitely not right for the part. I ignored him and went straight to Jiang Ningyi. I've asked Jiang Ling to come in for a screen test. 8. Jiang Ling is the undisputed white moonlight of the entire entertainment industry, a perfect embodiment of the ideal, a seasoned veteran actor, so there are zero concerns about her acting skills. Upon hearing Jiang Ling's name, Shen Riyue's face fell, because she knew perfectly well that if Jiang Ling showed up, she wouldn't even get a chance to audition, but she still struggled on, unwilling to give up. I'm cheaper than Jiang Ling, and my look is perfect for this role. If Director Jiang picks me, I won't even take a salary. Director Wang caught on and quickly chimed in to support her. That's right, Riyue's appearance is a perfect fit, and she could save the production a ton of money. We should give newcomers more chances, shouldn't we? A flicker of mockery passed through Jiang Ningyi's eyes. I'd like to, but you've already managed to offend the money people. How exactly am I supposed to give you a chance now? Shen Riyue and Director Wang were completely baffled. Jiang Ningyi didn't keep us in suspense any longer. He turned sideways, bowed to me, and performed a gentlemanly gesture of invitation. Miss Wen, please come in. The audition will begin shortly. I acknowledged with a faint nod, then walked past the two of them and entered the audition room. Jiang Ningyi's teasing voice came from behind. My mistake earlier. In our crew, she's the money mommy. He then left the two dejected souls behind and also entered the audition room. After that, Assistant Director Wang was also kicked off the production. It wasn't until the entire audition was over that I realized just how sharp Jiang Ningyi's eye was. The cast from the previous life was already the best possible choice. Of course, with Jiang Ling joining in this life, the film will be even better, reaching even greater heights. 9. After returning from Tsinghua, I hired a private investigator to tail Shen Riyue. They managed to snap quite a few photos of her cozying up to Assistant Director Wang, After all, even though assistant director Wang left this production, he still gets work in the industry. For a complete newcomer like Shin Ryu, he was definitely out of her league. I arranged to meet with Mrs. G and handed over the investigation results. After reading them, Mrs. G's face turned ashen, and she stood up, ready to go back and confront Shin Ryu. I calmly stopped her, saying, I have a good plan. It can make Shin Ryu willingly take care of GU, and it can also boost G Corporation's stock price. Mrs. G paused, looking at me warily. I could tell she was starting to doubt me. That was only natural. The moment I said what I just did, I was no longer just a junior in her eyes. I remained composed under her scrutinizing gaze. Madam G, why not have a seat and hear me out before deciding whether to trust me? Madam G pondered for a few seconds before sitting back down. I'll get straight to the point. Live streaming is huge right now. Some people have even gone viral overnight, raking in millions in a single session. Shin Ryu has the perfect image for a streamer. I've even got the perfect hook for her content. Her boyfriend became a vegetable after a car accident, and she stayed by his side, caring for him devotedly. What an undying, till death do us part, kind of love story. Netizens will eat it up. Madam G, however, frowned. What does this have to do with the G Group? The G family is in the food industry, but their products haven't been innovative enough in recent years, and the business has started to decline. Foot traffic in their stores has dropped significantly. If they could use their son to play up some hardship in a live stream and drive some sales. Mrs. G's brows instantly relaxed. She had grasped my meaning. If the products sell well, a rise in the stock price is only a matter of time. With this whole coordinated strategy, the G family stands to make tens of billions more. No problem at all. She set down her cup and let out a long, heavy sigh. It's the G family's loss that Jiu didn't marry you. Xiaoning, I owe you this time. If there's anything you want, just name it. Me. In that case, Auntie G, why not sell me 2% of the shares? Let me get a piece of the pie and share in the success. Madam G agreed without a second thought. After all, a 2% stake isn't much, but it does tie my fate to hers. Naturally, she wouldn't refuse. But are we really in the same boat? Not necessarily. A week later, Shin Ryu and GU went viral across the entire internet. If this isn't true love, then what is? The ultimate champion of pure romance. Her husband is in a vegetative state. Her mother-in-law treats her like a real daughter. And the G family is loaded. This is straight out of a novel. Praying for GU to wake up. True love must have a happy ending. Poor Mrs. G. Her husband passed away, and now her son is in a vegetative state. She's holding the entire G family together all by herself. My heart aches for her. Let's all support the G family by buying their products. They're a time-honored brand that hasn't raised prices in all these years. We all need snacks anyway. I'd rather make my snacking count. I'm buying theirs. After a series of strategic moves, the G family's products sold out completely. Shin Ryu is quite a character, pitifully maintaining her image as a pure-hearted widow in her daily live streams. She appeals to both male and female fans. Each live stream session earns her no less than 10 million. As the owner of this streaming platform, I made a fortune practically overnight. We brought in quite a few talented streamers. After more than 2 months of this, Shin Ryu finally couldn't take it anymore. Every penny she earned from streaming was tightly controlled by Madam G. Shin Ryu was taken to the hospital right after class, spending over 10 hours a day with GU. Unable to bear the monotony, she made a fuss, demanding breaks and a more reasonable schedule. She threatened to stop the live streams if Madam G didn't agree to her terms. Left with no choice, Madam G had to reduce the number of live stream sessions, putting a positive spin on it for the fans. They said, "We see and appreciate all your support. Please spend responsibly and avoid sending excessive gifts. We'll be moving to a once-a-week live stream schedule." This statement managed to win over another wave of goodwill from the online community. The stock price climbed once more, reaching an inflated level. Seizing the opportunity, I sold off all the shares gifted by Mrs. G, along with every single G Corporation stock I had previously purchased. I took the money I earned and reinvested it into another Xianxia drama, telling them to go all out on the special effects and not worry about the budget. The public's attention is fickle, and Shin Ryu and her group were quickly overshadowed by the next big thing. The revenue from each live stream session kept getting worse. After all, their initial success was just a flash in the pan. Without consistently producing quality content, how could they possibly keep making money? Shin Ryu began to entertain other ideas. She started flirting with the male fans in her live stream. Posting some suggestive photos or going out for a few meals could earn her a decent amount of money. The most crucial part was that Madam G was completely unaware of this money. I forwarded the photos I received to the marketing accounts I work with. Here's a scandal that's absolutely guaranteed to blow up on social media. 11. Hashtag campus sweetheart Shinryue. This is who she really is behind the scenes hashtag. This topic instantly went viral. With photos so explicit they couldn't be posted without heavy censorship, the sweeter the high was, the more sickening the aftertaste is now. Shinryue has been completely boycotted across the entire internet. All of her information, including her social media accounts, was swiftly shut down. I forcibly terminated her account on the streaming platform, issued a formal statement to reclaim the funds, and arranged for a full refund of all gifts to her fans. From now on, any streamer on the platform who engages in misconduct will have all their gift revenue revoked. And just like that, I climbed to the top by stepping over Shinryue, elevating the platform's reputation to new heights. Madam G was away on a business trip when she got the news. By the time she rushed back, Shinryue was already packing her bags, ready to flee. Furious, she had Shin apprehended on the spot and gave her a thorough dressing down. In the end, Shinryue ended up with a broken leg, divorced Jiyu, and left with nothing. And so, while he was in a coma, Jiyu not only experienced getting married and being thoroughly cuckolded, but also went through a divorce. Lying in bed, he managed to check off about 80% of life's major milestones. At this point, dying probably wouldn't leave him with any regrets. Because of Shinryue, fans who had previously bought the G family's snacks also spoke up. I've been wanting to say this for a while. The G family's products are awful. After all these years, they haven't improved one bit. Yeah, I didn't eat any of what I bought before. I only bought it to show support. But now, forget it. Mrs. G is pitiful enough as it is. Let's just consider the previous purchases as a charitable donation. Feeling sorry for them. You're on a $3,000 a month salary pitying someone who makes $30 million. Have some pity for yourselves first. As more and more candid, clear-headed comments emerged, the sales at the G family stores grew worse by the day. The artificially inflated stock price plummeted rapidly, hitting a record low. With Madam G preoccupied with company affairs, she had no choice but to entrust Jiyu to the care of a nurse. Having been slighted by Shinryue earlier, the caregiver seized this opportunity to pay back Jiangyu 100-fold. 12. The film I invested in was a massive hit upon release. And my investment returned several dozen times over. Jiang Ningyi became a household name across the country thanks to this film. After gaining recognition, he didn't stick to campus-themed projects but boldly ventured into a sci-fi series. To make a good sci-fi film, you can't skimp on the budget. So, the money that hadn't even warmed up in my pocket found its way back into Jiang Ningyi's account. Just a few days after casting wrapped and filming began, I got a call from the production crew. They said there was an accident during the demolition. Terrified, I hung up the phone and rushed to the hospital. To my surprise, I ran into Mrs. G and Jiyu in a wheelchair. The moment I arrived at the hospital, I raised an eyebrow in astonishment. Had Jiyu really woken up? Just like in my past life, Jiyu spotted me and waved. Xiaoning, perfect timing. Come push me to my checkup. Mom still has to get to the office. The moment his words hung in the air, it clicked for me. Jiyu had been reborn, just like me. Mrs. G must have kept the truth from him, likely to avoid upsetting him. So much so, he thought this life was just the same as the last. I pretended not to see the look Mrs. G was giving me. Since you're busy, Mrs. G, shall I call Shinryue for you? Let her come take care of you. Jiyu pursed his lips. There's nothing between us. Don't overthink it. Trying to get free labor out of me. And you claim there's nothing going on with Shinryue. You don't need me anymore. So you just kick me to the curb. Jiyu and Shinryue are a match made in heaven, truly living up to their reputation. Oh, I drawled, my tone dripping with implication. Of course I wouldn't think too much of it. Shinryue is so gentle and considerate. While you were still unconscious, worried your head might get cold, she knitted you a lovely green hat. Jiyu's expression went blank for a moment, bewildered. He tilted his head to look at Mrs. G. Mom. What is Wen Ning trying to say? I explained helpfully. She means your wife is seeing someone else. She doesn't want you anymore. Enough, Madam G roared. Wen Ning, shut your mouth. I shrugged and made a zipping motion over my lips. At this moment, Jiyu felt as if he had been thrown into a boundless, icy abyss, his blood running cold. His knuckles turned white as he gripped the wheelchair. His voice strained. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. You must be lying to me. That's right. You're all lying to me. You just want me to marry you. His tone was condescending, as if I were reaching above my station. You must still be half asleep and dreaming. What a load of nonsense. I was about to say something when a pair of hands gently wrapped around my shoulders from behind. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? It was Jiang Ningyi, who had just arrived. He held me close, looking at Ji-yu with a bewildered expression. What? Is he doing a good deed, taking care of the disabled? 13. The way Ji-yu's face turned from pale to flushed was absolutely priceless. What a shame we didn't record it. It would have made a perfect acting masterclass. Jiang Ningyi clicked his tongue, his expression tinged with regret. Thinking back on this scene just now, I couldn't help but let a smile touch my lips. In our past life, Ji-yu hated me for ruining his love, yet in this life, upon waking, he covets my selfless devotion. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. What a hypocrite. But none of this has anything to do with me anymore. Ji-yu and I are just strangers who have gone our separate ways. I put him out of my mind and followed Jiang Ningyi to visit the hospitalized actor. Jiang Ningyi said quietly, all the safety measures were in place. It's just a minor scrape, nothing to worry about. My worries eased, and I urged him to be extra careful from now on. As I was talking, I suddenly stopped in my tracks and asked Jiang Ningyi, why did you think to pretend we were a couple in front of Ji-yu? Jiang Ningyi froze up completely. I've taken so much money from you. It's a complimentary service. Next time you're forced into a blind date, you can still come to me. I narrowed my eyes. Oh, Jiang Ningyi lifted his chin. Don't think just because I'm a director that I can't act. I'm actually quite brilliant. Anyway, I should get going. Next time I have a moment, I'll show you my special skills. With that, Jiang Yining beat a hasty retreat. I watched his awkward, stiff-backed figure and let out a soft chuckle. Director Jiang, I think you're going the wrong way. Jiang Ningyi came to an abrupt halt, then clumsily turned on his heel and quickened his pace to get away. Even in his flustered retreat, I could still see the tips of his ears, burning bright red. This kid, could it be? Is there a new drama to film? Is he after my money again? 14. After that, I'd still occasionally hear news about Ji-yu from my dad. I heard Shinryue came to the hospital to see Ji-yu. Shinryue is now paralyzed in both legs, and her future looks bleak. Upon hearing the news of Ji-yu's awakening, they would undoubtedly seize him tightly. It was as if Ji-yu had been lying there for 3 years, and his mind had gone bad. Shinryue shifted all the blame onto Madame Ji, claiming she had no other choice. With just a few tears and a show of misery, he actually forgave Shinryue. Upon learning of this, Mrs. Ji immediately had Ji-yu locked away, forbidding him from seeing Shinryue. Ji-yu pretended to obey her, but in secret, he pushed himself relentlessly, accelerating his rehabilitation. However, his body had already been neglected by his caretakers for 2 years. Subjecting it to such intense training now caused him to cripple one of his legs. Then, seizing a moment when Mrs. Ji wasn't paying attention, he slipped out of the Ji household and eloped with Shinryue. Upon learning of the situation, Mrs. Ji immediately froze all of Ji-yu's credit cards. She cut off all his means of survival. We all knew that Shinryue was only after Ji-yu's money. If Ji-yu were to truly become penniless, Shinryue wasn't about to just sit back and behave herself. Madame Ji was forcing him to go back. But this time, my father had completely given up and stopped mentioning the debt of gratitude and the marriage arrangement. That Ji boy, how can he be so clueless? Old Ji and his wife didn't have much affection to begin with, yet they still supported each other lovingly for a lifetime. My mom twisted his ear. You're the one who's got it all wrong, always trying to push our daughter into a pit of fire. The two of them started bickering and squabbling all over again. A moment later, my dad came over to my side, holding his ear. Ning, don't be upset. I'll find you another fine young gentleman. I picked up my bag and stood up, my face expressionless. Dad, I just remembered. I have a meeting to get to. I have to go. Great, just what I needed. Another person trying to set me up on a blind date. 15. I dodged it for half a year, but in the end, I couldn't escape the blind date. The man sitting across from me went on and on about how many millions he makes a year and how in demand he is. I had to force myself not to throw a glass of water in his face. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. Now I finally understand why my dad is so grateful to the Ji family. It's all about his eye for talent. If it weren't for Uncle Ji's recommendation back then, we'd never have built the family business we have today. As I was washing my hands after leaving the restroom, a conversation between two men nearby made me pause in my tracks. Ji-yu brought the campus belle to the reunion, and she couldn't take her eyes off young Master Chen. Ji-yu's broke and limping now. No wonder Shinryue wants nothing to do with him. What a joke he is. A campus belle and a laughingstock. They're a match made in heaven. You know, I still have those racy photos from back in the day saved. Gotta say, Shinryue's figure is something else. No wonder she managed to sweet-talk so many sugar daddies into bankrolling her. Come on, bro, don't hog the good stuff. Share the link on the cloud drive. Their voices gradually faded into the distance. Just as I was about to leave, Ji stumbled out of the men's restroom, looking utterly devastated. Looks like I wasn't the only one eavesdropping. Ji's eyes were bloodshot. His teeth clenched. You're here to laugh at me too. I have no interest in being the butt of a joke. I didn't answer, turning to leave, but Ji suddenly grabbed my wrist. Ning, have you been reborn too? Startled by his words, I failed to break free in time. Before I knew it, he had dragged me and pinned me against the wall. Ning. Instead of keeping that pretty boy Jiang Yining, you should choose me. We'd both been reborn, and we were husband and wife in our past life. I'm the one who's truly right for you. I was once again stunned by Ji's sheer audacity. It's true what they say, when you have no shame, you're truly invincible. I looked at him coldly. I have no intention of being the other woman, just say yes, and I'll break up with her right now. Ji hurriedly explained. I figured it out. Shenruyue is only after my money. Someone as lowly as her doesn't deserve to be with me. Lowly. I stomped hard on Ji's foot and wrenched my hand free from his grasp. You're no prize either. Don't tell me you want to be with me for any reason other than my money. My retort left Ji speechless, and he grew flustered, scrambling to defend himself. I didn't hold back in the slightest as I spoke. If she's not after your money, then what? Your hopeless romanticism, your limp. Sure, Shenruyue is no saint. She's ruthless and cunning. But what about you, Ji? You're a fool who's been played for a fool, throwing away your future and sacrificing your life for her. The icy voice echoed in the narrow corridor, each word like a dagger plunging into Ji's chest. His hands trembled uncontrollably as he murmured, nearly in a daze, no, that's not true, that's not how it is. My words were like rubbing salt in the wound. It utterly shattered Ji's convictions. I watched coldly as he feebly defended himself, trying to salvage a heart that had long since crumbled. Was Ji really that foolish? He was simply deceiving himself. I laid the truth bare before him long ago. He simply refused to believe it, patching things up, lying to myself again and again, but this time, it's riddled with holes, beyond all repair. I watched coldly as Ji knelt on the ground, then turned and left without a moment's hesitation. You made your bed, now lie in it. 16. When I returned to the private room, Jiang Ningi had already arrived. He looked like he'd just walked off the set of a romantic drama, dressed in a tailored suit. He sat frowning, his right hand toying incessantly with the luxury watch on his left wrist. Every so often, he would cast an idle, dismissive glance at the man across from him, his blind date, and then click his tongue in disapproval. Hearing my footsteps, Jiang Ningi looked up, rose to his feet, and in one long stride was right in front of me. He pulled me close by the waist, drawing me into his embrace. Woman, he said, how dare you try to marry someone else while carrying my child, me? I managed to whisper hoarsely to Jiang Ningi, have you lost your mind from filming too many dramas? Jiang Ningi gave me a reassuring look. The weather has turned cold. It's time for the Wang family to go bankrupt. Me. I buried my face in Jiang Ningi's chest, mortified beyond belief. The blind date guy, who apparently wasn't surnamed Wang, cursed under his breath. Freak. He stood up, shot me and Jiang Ningi a venomous glare, and stormed out of the private room. As soon as they left, I quickly wriggled out of Jiang Ningi's embrace. Where did you get that look? It's so cringe. Jiang Ningi touched his head in surprise. Huh, it's cringe. I heard from the crew next door that all the girls are into this style nowadays. I glared at him with dead fish eyes, threatening, stop hanging around other sets while filming, and stay away from those cheesy CEO romance novels. Jiang Ningi replied with a cheeky grin, you got it, sugar mama. Amidst the horseplay, we arrived at the door. As the private room door swung open, a piercing scream echoed down the hallway. Murder. There's been a murder. Security personnel swiftly arrived on the scene to secure the area. I took a distant glance. Blood bloomed in great, spreading stains. Lying on the ground was Shenruyue, her eyes wide open, unable to believe even in death what had happened. And kneeling before her was Jiyu, the knife still in his hand. Jiyu had killed with his own hands the very lover he had fought so desperately to save 3 years before. How ironic. 17. Just as the police arrived, Mrs. Ji also rushed to the scene. Seeing her son, Jiyu, now a murderer, she fainted dead away. It was only then I noticed how much Madame Ji had aged. It was as if a decade had passed since I last saw her. The Ji family was finished, utterly and completely. I dropped Jiang Ningi off at the neighboring film set and returned the costumes and props. Just then, my mother called. Her voice, thick with disbelief, crackled through the phone. When Ning, you're pregnant and you're not even married. I was just about to explain when, the very next second, my mom's voice rang out again, this time brimming with delight. Look at you, all grown up. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be a grandma. I have to go brag to my girlfriends right now. Ha ha ha. I'm going to be a grandma. Old man, you're going to be a grandpa. I hung up the phone in silence. Great, 2 more have lost their minds. Jiang Ningyi, with his hands in his pockets, said nonchalantly, look on the bright side, no more blind dates for a whole year. And what am I supposed to do a year from now? Pull a child out of thin air for my mom. Don't even suggest borrowing one from the crew next door. But then, Jiang Ningyi suddenly straightened up and gave me a slightly awkward wink. What do you think? Is there still time for me to try harder? I pressed a hand to my wildly beating heart. You, Jiang Ningyi looked at me expectantly, a grandson as old as you. Do you think my mother could accept that? Jiang Ningyi stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. He covered his face in despair. It's over. You really want to be the sugar mommy now. The road ahead is long. And the journey is still far from over. Watching Jiang Ningyi's antics, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. It finally dawned on Jiang Ningyi that I was teasing him. He pouted, tugging at the corner of my clothes with a pitiful look. Boo-hoo, you're messing with me. I'm going to get a little grumpy now. I shuddered with disgust, pulled my clothes back, and quickened my pace. Jiang Ningyi stood there, unmoving. I said leisurely, hurry up. My mom wants you to come home for dinner. Our mom. Your grandma, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Playfully bickering, the 2 of them walked off into the distance. In the light, their 2 shadows slowly drew together and gradually merged into one. From that moment on, a new chapter of my life officially began. Story 2. After my husband's white moonlight got married, he jumped off a building. Before jumping, he made a will, leaving all his money to the unborn child in his white moonlight's womb. That disgusting illegitimate child, even I, the legitimate wife, missed out on all the company's shares, became a worker toiling for the unattainable love, reborn into this life. Looking at the man before me, a trace of disgust flashed in my eyes, like playing the devoted man. Then you can go die together with your white moonlight. 1. When I received the news that I was about to become a wage slave, I was so shocked I nearly fainted in the cafe. My husband's white moonlight, my arch-rival Jiang Yu, sat across from me with a pregnant belly. Smiling innocently, sister, blame it on our brother for loving me and the child too much. That's why he left the inheritance to me. After all, what father would want his own son to suffer? Isn't that right? Staring at the arrogant woman before me, I clenched my fists tightly, the sharp nails dug into my flesh, the pain excruciating. My husband committed suicide by jumping off a building some time ago, just when I thought I was about to inherit all his property and reach the peak of my life. A lawyer showed up at my house with my husband's will, followed by his unattainable love. In the will, all of my husband's shares were unconditionally given to the child in Jiang Yu's womb, his illegitimate child. As for me, I've gone from being the boss's wife to just another employee. How ironic that after all these years of hard work, I end up working for the mistress and her illegitimate child. Watching Jiang Yu continue to show off in front of me, the light in my eyes gradually dimmed. Then with a smile, I reached into my bag under the table and pulled out my butterfly knife for self-defense, stabbed straight into the left eye of the woman opposite. Blood gushed out, accompanied by screams from the surrounding people. I stepped onto the table and slashed Jiang Yu's throat with another knife, still thinking of using the family fortune I'd worked so hard to build all these years to raise your illegitimate child. In your dreams, go to hell with that bastard man of yours. When I opened my eyes again, I thought I was in prison, but the pink curtains told me otherwise. My mother pushed the door open and stood by my bed with a calm expression. Yu Qing, let me ask you one more time, are you really going to marry that penniless Gu Qinghai? That question jolted me fully awake. I had been reborn, in my past life. I nodded without hesitation. Just because he was my first love in high school, I married into the Gu family with a maiden's longing and an exorbitant dowry. In this life, I threw myself onto the bed, kneeling and wailing, no no no, I won't marry. I refuse to wed a penniless man. As soon as the words fell, I saw my mother heave a sigh of relief. Then she patted my shoulder and said with a smile, that's my daughter. Seeing you so bewitched recently, I thought you were possessed by a ghost. After saying this, my mother's expression immediately turned serious. The Gu family is waiting in the living room right now. Since you don't want to marry Gu Qinghai, I'll go make it clear. After saying that, she was about to get up and leave, but I grabbed her arm. A cold sneer flashed through my eyes. In my past life, Gu Qinghai's betrayal was etched deeply in my memory. Having been reborn, how could I let him off so easily? A smile spread across my face. Mom, this trouble was caused by me. I'll handle it myself. I'll talk to Uncle Gu about it, too. In my past life, I was determined to marry Gu Qinghai. The Gu family had fallen into decline in the capital, and upon hearing this, they acted as if they had stumbled upon a great bargain, immediately bringing Gu Qinghai to propose marriage. At that time, Jianyu was still the adopted daughter of the Gu family and stubbornly followed them here. Gu Qinghuai, in front of his beloved, reluctantly accepted me. Thinking back now, he must have hated me to death. I picked a black cheongsam from the wardrobe. Embroidered with several dark golden lotus flowers and gold thread, it exuded an air of dignified elegance. As my mother watched me in the mirror putting on earrings and fixing my hair, instantly transforming from a college girl to a wealthy heiress, she nodded in satisfaction. My mother and I came to the living room. From afar, I could see Gu's father rubbing his hands together, speaking to my father with a fawning expression, but my father sat stiffly on the chair with a stern face. Seeing me arrive, both Gu Qinghuai and Jianyu were somewhat stunned. The Gu family had fallen into decline, with the entire household crammed into a mere dozen square meter flat in the capital. For over a decade, Mr. Gu clung to his delusion of making a comeback, squandering what little remained of their savings. Thus, both Gu Qinghuai and Jianyu now dressed simply, completely unlike me. I glanced at Jianyu's face, not missing the unmistakable envy in her eyes. Seeing me arrive, Father Gu immediately greeted warmly. Youqing's here. Come sit down quickly. Look at Youqing's noble demeanor. It's clear she and Qinghuai are a match made in heaven. I smiled and touched the imperial green oval cabochon ring on my middle finger. Glancing at Gu Qinghuai across from me, his blue shirt faded from washing. I remained non-committal. Just as Father Gu was about to probe my father about my dowry, I raised my hand to interrupt him. Uncle, I haven't agreed to marry Gu Qinghuai yet. Don't be so quick to calculate my dowry. The duck hasn't even reached your mouth, and you're already planning to suck the marrow from its bones. As soon as I finished speaking, I saw the Gu family's expressions darken in unison. Gu Qinghuai's voice turned stern. Lin Yuqing, how dare you speak to my father like that? Apologize now. I glanced at him disdainfully and sneered. What kind of thing are you, daring to order me around? I'm the eldest daughter of the wealthy Lin family, your education sponsor. Even if I didn't give you life, I raised you, and now you're demanding an apology from me. I've never seen a shameless man like you who acts tough while living off others. Such audacity. After speaking, I noticed my father sitting beside me immediately brighten up, his gaze towards me filling with appreciation. I couldn't help but laugh. My father was upright and taciturn, so now that I'd voiced his inner thoughts, he naturally felt relieved. The Gu family was momentarily stunned to see their formerly obedient me acting so shrewish. Seizing the advantage, I pointed at Gu Qinghuai's nose and scolded. If I hadn't funded you back then, you'd have dropped out and be selling pancakes on the street by now. Where would you get the money to start a business? It's an honor that I took a liking to you, and you dare speak to me like this. After saying that, I gave a meaningful glance at Jianyu standing beside Gu Qinghuai, implying, or is it that your heart belongs to someone else, and I'm playing the villain who separates lovers? Jianyu's lips instantly turned pale upon hearing my words. Some time ago, Father Gu was even willing to marry her off to a wealthy merchant in his 50s for bride price, just to secure a new loan and make a comeback. It was Gu Qinghuai who stepped forward, claiming he could marry the eldest daughter of the Lin family, which finally made Father Gu spare Jianyu. I'll never forget how Jianyu touched her pregnant belly in our past life and smiled at me, saying, "Do you know what my brother told me back then? On the night of your wedding, my brother held me and told me to endure a little longer, that once he becomes powerful enough, we can be together openly." When Gu Qinghuai heard what I said, he immediately reacted as if struck by a guilty conscience, saying sharply, "Lin Yuqing, don't go too far. Jianyu and I are just siblings." As the words fell, a faint smile curled at the corners of my lips. This was a confession without prompting. Having navigated the business world for years, my father had long honed a pair of piercing, discerning eyes. His gaze swept over Gu Qinghuai and Jianyu, and in an instant, he grasped the gist of the matter, followed swiftly by a surge of anger. Father sneered as he turned his gaze toward Gu's father. The ancients always said, to govern the state, one must first regulate the family. Old Gu, if you can't even keep your own household in order, no wonder your business ventures fail. After speaking, the father coldly signaled to the servant behind him, "With a family like this, you still dare dream of marrying my daughter? Preposterous. Attendants, escort this guest out." 3. Just like that, the entire Gu family was thrown out by us. Gu Qinghuai looked particularly disheveled, standing awkwardly outside the Lin family's villa, raising his head to glare at me watching the spectacle from the balcony. Without hesitation, I flipped him the bird. Shortly after, the property security guards dragged Gu Qinghuai away. In my past life, everyone around me doubted the marriage arrangement between me and Gu Qinghuai, saying we were doomed to fail. Only one person consistently tried to bring me and Gu Qinghuai together from start to finish. That was one of my friends, Song Yu, the illegitimate daughter of the Song family, but when Jiang Yu came to seize my assets, Song Yu vanished into thin air like steam. Later, I discovered she had taken a large sum of money and emigrated abroad. Looking back now, I suspect the Gu family had bribed people around me to ensure I married into the Gu family safely. They truly went to great lengths. The night I rejected Gu Qinghuai, Song Yu texted me asking why I broke up with him. Her tone wasn't pleasant, and there was even a hint of accusation between the lines. Gu Qinghuai is handsome and driven. He's already a great match. Yuri not getting any younger this year, and it's already good that someone wants you. How dare you still be picky? After saying that, she sent several contemptuous emojis in a row, then added, if you reject Gu Qinghuai, let's just cut ties. I stared at my phone screen in slight surprise, a flicker of doubt crossing my mind. My past self must have been incredibly patient not to slap this illegitimate daughter who dared speak to me like that. Then I immediately understood. Previously, I was a spoiled young lady with no temper, doted on by my parents and untouched by hardships. It wasn't until after marriage when I was forced to start a business with Gu Qinghuai that I toughened up and became the fiery President Lin. Naturally, my state of mind is different now, watching Song Yu still spouting nonsense on the screen. I moved my fingers, blocked her decisively without hesitation, thought the matter would come to an end. Who would have thought that blind-eyed Song Yu would, at Saturday's cocktail party, publicly confront me about why I blocked her? At that moment, I was holding a wine glass and speaking with their family's eldest daughter. The Song family's eldest daughter frowned upon hearing Song Yu speak. The Song family is currently eager to collaborate with the Lin family. Even she herself has to force a smile when speaking to me. What on earth is this illegitimate child doing now? The crowd of onlookers grew larger as the Song family's eldest daughter scolded. What place do you have to speak in such a setting? Moreover, if someone blocked you, there must be a reason. Have you ever reflected on your own behavior? Before the illegitimate daughter could retort, I cut in. Speaking of which, I'd like to ask Miss Song, your family's upbringing can't be that poor, so how did you raise such an outrageous girl? She actually expected me, a young lady from a prominent family, to marry someone like Gu Qinghuai, a down-and-out nobody. Even my marriage arrangements are subject to my parents' approval. Since when did Miss Song become so meddlesome? When she saw me arguing with Gu Qinghuai, she even threatened to cut ties with me unless we reconciled. As I finished, the crowd erupted in mocking laughter, all ridiculing the illegitimate daughter for overestimating her importance. The Song family's eldest daughter flushed red and then paled with anger. Then she shot a glance at her assistant behind her. The assistant stepped forward and slapped Song Yu twice across the face. The eldest Miss Song smiled apologetically at me, saying, it's entirely due to the Song family's lax discipline that this farce occurred. Rest assured, Miss Lin, we'll take her back and give her a proper talking to. I looked at the disheveled Song Yu before me, her cheeks swollen high, recalling her glorious and untouchable demeanor in her previous life. I nodded in satisfaction. Song Yu was dragged by the servants and thrown into the car, to be sent back to the Song family after the banquet concluded. Meanwhile, I proceeded to discuss business with the eldest Miss Song. Although the current head of the Song family hasn't achieved any major accomplishments, they've done quite well in maintaining the family's legacy. There's still someone worth befriending. The next morning, my father and mother sat on the sofa with serious expressions, seeing me come downstairs. My father cleared his throat and said, Yuzuki, starting today, you'll come to work at the company with me. Your mother and I have been overprotective of you before. Any stranger could easily deceive and take you away. Now we should start training you like we would an heir. I had been longing for this opportunity, so I agreed immediately after father finished speaking. Without further questions, father instructed the driver to prepare another car. The Lin family is different from other wealthy families. Mother didn't choose the diplomatic wife route, instead joining the company alongside father after my birth, sharing equal equity, with both spouses working hard together. The Lin family flourished accordingly, becoming one of Beijing's rare families that consistently climbed the social ladder without decline. Even if I had foolishly married Gu Qinghuai in my past life, my parents were no fools, according to my recollection. Gu Qinghuai's true coldness toward me likely began when he heard me say, my parents had already made plans for me. I am the sole heir of the Lin family trust. If I die, almost all the assets will be transferred to a designated foundation to protect endangered wildlife on Changbai Mountain from poaching. Upon joining the company, my father appointed me as the chairman's assistant. After shadowing my father nonstop for a week, I quickly familiarized myself with the company's basic structure. Since it's a joint leadership by the couple, there's no factional struggle within the company. Everyone performs their own duties, and the salary package is commensurate with employees' efforts. With the experience of starting a business alone in my previous life, I basically grasped company matters instantly. Seeing my natural talent, my father immediately abandoned his initial thought of keeping me by his side. On Friday afternoon, as soon as the appointment order naming me as Deputy General Manager was issued, I immediately assumed my new position. While everything was peaceful on my side, Gu Qinghuai's situation was filled with gloom and despair. Without me, their financial benefactor, Gu's father was desperate to make a comeback. He immediately sent Jiang Yu out as a cash cow. At every high society banquet the Gu family could attend, Jiang Yu would be brought by Mr. Gu to toast each business magnate present. This explosive exclusive gossip came from my dear cousin, a fine young lady who utterly detested Jiang Yu. Back when Jiang Yu was trying to elevate her social status in their circle, she secretly smeared my cousin, her peer, countless times. Though my cousin retaliated in kind, the two became sworn enemies from then on. To get a close-up view of Jiang Yu's awkward situation, my cousin specially gave me an invitation to the weekend banquet. She wanted me to join her in watching the spectacle. Just thinking about Jiang Yu's arrogant demeanor in my past life fills me with malice. I'm no White Lotus protagonist. I'm just a petty person who loves to kick others when they're down, most skilled at reveling in my enemy's misfortunes. So that evening I made a grand entrance, dressed in the latest haute couture from the runway that made me look like the epitome of wealth and beauty. Not to mention the priceless jewelry adorning me and the refined demeanor cultivated from being raised in an aristocratic family. The moment I stepped onto the red carpet, all the other minor celebrities instantly paled in comparison. The reporters' cameras all turned toward me. The host immediately put on an ingratiating smile when they saw me arrive, handing me a signing pen with both hands for an autograph. I overheard a junior reporter in the corner whispering to their colleague, "Who is that?" Such grand presence. When she arrived, even the newly crowned Best Actress made way for her to take photos first. Their colleague quickly hushed. "You don't know, that's a genuine Beijing socialite, a true heiress." 60% of the celebrities at this gala are employees of her family's company. The questioning reporter gasped, then quickly shut their mouth before my gaze swept over them. That reporter wasn't wrong. Many actors and celebrities in the entertainment industry are indeed our family's employees. However, the Lin family's business empire extends far beyond just the entertainment industry. Finance, internet, computing, catering, culture. The Lin family has ventures in all these fields. Serving as my male escort was the renowned director who watched me grow up. He chatted with me as we walked into the inner venue together. Many familiar celebrities immediately swarmed around, engaging in conversation with the director. I, on the other hand, found my cousin, grabbed some food from the buffet area in the venue, and sat in a corner to eat. The people at the banquet all had different purposes. Business tycoons holding capital either chatted casually or exchanged the latest market trends and future industry policies amidst laughter and smiles. The celebrities' intentions are quite blatant. An accomplished veteran actor stands beside a familiar director, discussing the upcoming filming work. With just a few words, they secured a role that could make an unknown actor famous overnight. Yet more are those obscure but good-looking minor celebrities, constantly searching for targets on the scene. The entertainment industry is never short of beauties. At this time in my previous life, I got engaged and married to Gu Qinghuai. Gu Qinghuai said it was because our family had no power or influence. His younger sister Jiang Yu suffered constant bullying in the dance troupe. Jiang Yu now wants to switch careers and enter the entertainment industry, asking for my help. For this reason, I went to great lengths at the time to stop Jiang Yu from going to accompany wealthy sponsors for drinks. I forcefully got her, who wasn't skilled enough, into a dance variety show. Later, I also spent money on data manipulation and marketing for her. She was forcibly elevated to a height that didn't belong to her, despite being worlds apart from top dancers in terms of innate talent. In this lifetime, I simply smiled faintly. In this life, I didn't help her pull strings. She didn't even qualify for the preliminary auditions. Maybe I can only tag along to the cocktail party by mooching a ticket to accompany older men. As midnight approached, most of the overt business discussions had concluded. A small group of executives, directors, and celebrities left first, while the rest tacitly headed to the top floor, exchanging glances with my cousin. We also stood up and waited by the elevator to go to the top floor. After all, we came here tonight specifically to see the excitement. How could we possibly miss the most thrilling part of the show? My cousin is delicately beautiful, with every smile and frown exuding the charming innocence of a young girl. As for me, I am striking and glamorous, with every gesture radiating an aura of decisive authority. coupled with our exquisitely expensive evening gowns, we stood out from the crowd even more. The young nobleman beside me gulped and whispered to his companion, "Which noble family do these two beauties belong to? Their master must be quite the lucky man." Before he could finish, his companion immediately panicked and tried to hush him, but it was too late. The female bodyguard behind me strode forward and slapped the young nobleman twice across the face. Blood immediately gushed from his nose and mouth as he collapsed onto the ground. The minor celebrity in his arms let out a shriek and stumbled away in fright. I looked down at the disheveled nobleman with the same disdain one would show to trash. The banquet manager heard the commotion and hurried over, bowing and scraping to apologize to me. Then he escorted my cousin and me to the VIP elevator. My cousin snorted coldly. If it weren't for watching Jianyu make a fool of herself, I'd never come to such a disgusting place. I glanced at her with a smile and comforted her. Just think about how we'll soon see Jianyu humiliated, doesn't that make it better? As I finished speaking, the elevator reached the top floor where a bowing attendant stood at the door. I casually picked up a glass of red wine and walked toward the venue. Compared to the cocktail party downstairs, the people at the upstairs party were more like beasts unleashing their primal instincts, greed, profit above all, and clear class divisions. The wealthy bosses were the center of attention, while their companions fawned over them, carefully currying favor with their benefactors. Among a crowd of good-looking celebrities, I also spotted the person we came to see tonight, Jianyu. Unlike the image we imagined of her being unyielding even unto death, vowing to remain chaste for Gu Qinghuai, here, she was dressed lightly, leaning against a man in his 40s with coquettish laughter. The two were whispering, and occasionally I could hear Jianyu's deliberate coyness and laughter. I curled my lips. It seems exactly as I imagined. Jianyu was never an easy person to deal with. Poor Gu Qinghuai, such a lovesick fool. Even his posthumous inheritance went to that wretched woman, who knew she only saw him as a gullible fool and a backup option. Photography and recording were prohibited at the party. My cousin and I sat in a corner, listening with great interest to Jianyu's conversation with that wealthy businessman. At this party, Jianyu was just a minor internet celebrity. Her looks couldn't compare to those stunning celebrities, but as a dance major, her figure was truly 1 in 100. Seeing the wealthy businessman's gaze drawn by a passing celebrity, Jianyu immediately cooed, "Uncle, you're not allowed to look." Could her figure possibly compare to mine? As she spoke, her cousin sitting behind them made an exaggerated gagging expression. My eyes were filled with sarcasm. After all, Jianyu has built her online persona as the clear-headed female lead. In her videos, she advocates that women should earn their living through their own abilities. Any method relying on beauty and figure isn't sustainable. Girls should have self-respect and self-love. Watching Jianyu being manhandled before my eyes, I let out a cold laugh. Seems like you can't fully trust what internet celebrities say after all. After all, whether influencers are angels or demons behind the camera remains unknown. The party didn't end until late at night. The wealthy merchant dusted himself off and prepared to move to the hotel with Jianyu. The corners of my mouth curled slightly as I sent a message on my phone before leisurely getting up to leave with my cousin. In his past life, Gu Qinghuai was deeply infatuated with Jianyu. How could I just stand by and watch Jianyu submit to someone else now? Of course, I had to let Gu Qinghuai play the hero and save the beauty. 5. The Lin family's business ventures span a wide range. Luxury hotels are among them. After a drinking session, the wealthy businessman brought Jianyu to a 5-star hotel under the Lin Group for check-in. When she saw the hotel's name, a flicker of unease passed through Jianyu's eyes. Today, Gu Qinghuai was conducting business negotiations nearby. Given his previous playboy habits, he would undoubtedly choose this hotel. Fortunately, they were on different floors, so there was no chance of running into each other. But before she could finish feeling relieved, the hotel manager apologetically informed the wealthy businessman, "Sir, there's an issue with the bathroom in your reserved room, and it's temporarily unavailable. We've upgraded your room for free. It still has the auspicious room number 1888. Would that be acceptable?" Upon hearing the room number 1888, the businessman's face lit up with joy, and he eagerly agreed. As the two headed upstairs, the manager finally came to the VIP lounge with great respect to report the completion of the task to me. I took a sip of the fine tea in my cup with a beaming smile. Next, watch me kill 2 birds with 1 stone and reap the benefits from others' conflict. I knew that Jianyu's initiative to seduce the sponsor must have been done under the implicit suggestion of Father Gu. After all, Mr. Gu recently thought he had discovered another industry trend and urgently needed a large sum of money to invest. Gu Qinghuai had just finished paying off his father's debts and wouldn't spare a single penny more. Jianyu had grown tired of living in poverty, especially after witnessing the wealth of my Lin family. and was obsessed with climbing the social ladder. So the father and daughter hit it off immediately and quickly found a wealthy backer. As I looked through the materials prepared by my assistant, a faint smile flashed in my eyes, but they were too impatient and completely failed to notice. This wealthy businessman is just a spineless man who rose to prominence through his wife, with an exceptionally domineering wife and children. According to the information I leaked, the wealthy wife will come to catch them in the act in half an hour, while waiting for the wealthy lady to arrive at the hotel. I got up and headed to the changing room, changed into the hotel attendant's uniform. In addition to the standard white shirt and black trousers, I deliberately pinned a thumb-sized brooch next to the name tag. The brooch contained a pinhole camera, allowing me to capture exciting moments while observing the scene. Half an hour later, the floor manager responsible for the 18th floor called urgently. Said a group of people came up aggressively, swiping a room card to open room 1888. The leading socialite dragged out a barely clothed woman from the room. Now she's pulling her hair and slapping her face. I'll bring the manager upstairs right away. As soon as the elevator doors opened on the 18th floor, I heard sharp curses and a girl's crying in the hallway. The voices were accompanied by loud slaps. You shameless woman, so young yet already seducing married men. Today I'll teach you a proper lesson to keep you from straying down this wicked path. Someone come and scar her face. With that, I quickly stepped forward, positioning myself at an angle where I could clearly see the noblewoman's face. This position not only provided the clearest view of the cheating scene unfolding in the corridor, through the half-open door, one could still see the face of the trembling wealthy merchant, wrapped only in a towel, the manager, and I stood there, watching helplessly as the noblewoman's servant stepped forward and firmly gripped Jianyu's face. The next moment, disregarding Jianyu's struggles and pleas, the servant mercilessly slashed her face twice without hesitation. Blood splattered onto the carpet as Jianyu let out a wail, clutching her face and collapsing to the ground. Seeing the timing was ripe, a glint of amusement flashed in my eyes. What's so fun about just disfiguring Jianyu, now that Gu Qinghai is staying in room 1889? How could we not let him join in on such an exciting spectacle? But the soundproofing in 5-star hotels is excellent. No matter how loud the commotion in the hallway, it wouldn't reach the room. I turned my head and gave the manager beside me a look. The manager immediately understood and pretended to panic as he pushed through the crowd. When passing by room 1889, the master key at my waist silently pressed against the keypad lock. A soft sound, Gu Qinghai's door opened. The manager immediately stepped forward and whispered to the noblewoman, "Madam, the hotel is crowded and prying eyes are everywhere. It's not safe to stay long. We'll call 120 in 10 minutes at most," saying a woman fainted in the hallway from low blood sugar, her face scratched by a hairpin. "You and your people should hurry." The noblewoman, pleased by the manager's tact, nodded in satisfaction. Then she glared maliciously at Jianyu, who was surrounded by the crowd, her clothes in tatters. Next, Jianyu was destined to endure the most painful 10 minutes of her life. With Jianyu's scream, the servant at the front had already taken action. They mercilessly yanked out a small clump of her hair. With such commotion, even someone sleeping like a log would be startled awake. The shriek slipped through the door crack and pierced Gu Qinghai's ears. He rose impatiently, frowning as he pushed open the door, about to scold when a sentence drilled into his ears. "What are you hiding from? Miss Jianyu, you volunteered to be the other woman back then, so why are you acting scared now that I've come knocking?" After speaking, Gu Qinghai heard his younger sister's sobs. He yanked the door open instantly, only to see Jianyu crouching naked in the hallway, being surrounded and slapped repeatedly. In his shock, Gu Qinghai failed to notice me standing not far away, wearing a face mask. Jianyu was forced to lift her head as someone yanked her hair. Catching a glimpse of Gu Qinghai's face in her peripheral vision, instantly clinging to him like a lifeline, she cried out with hope in her eyes, "Brother, come save me quickly." Gu Qinghai's pupils trembled violently. Just as he was about to speak, his business partner emerged from the room, looking at Jianyu on the ground with a puzzled expression. "Qinghai, is this your sister?" Hearing his friend's voice, Gu Qinghai suddenly snapped out of his daze as if waking from a deep dream. Staring at the disheveled, naked Jianyu before him, then I thought about my usual identity as a carefree young master. Gu Qinghai gritted his teeth and pretended to sneer coldly. "How could my sister possibly be the kind of woman who actively becomes the other woman? You're insulting me." After speaking, under Jianyu's shocked gaze, Gu Qinghai patted his partner's shoulder and turned away first. "Going back to my room. People are watching the mistress get beaten. But I have a meeting tomorrow." 6. I stood coldly at the back of the crowd. I watched Jianyu get beaten for a full 10 minutes. By the time the crowd dispersed, Jiang Yu lay on the ground, covered in bruises. Apart from the facial wounds, the most severe injury was undoubtedly the leg fracture. That's because the manager had just whispered in the noblewoman's ear, "Madam, when you hit her, be careful of her legs. She's a dancer. Breaking her legs could cause trouble." The noblewoman's anger was instantly provoked. "What can a mere dancer do? I'm not afraid of some mistress. Beat her up." As soon as the servant finished speaking, the staff came down hard, striking Jiang Yu's calf and shin bone, instantly bending them into a grotesque curve. Jiang Yu let out a blood-curdling scream before completely losing consciousness. I turned and instructed the manager, "Call 120. And remember to send the bill to the Gu residence." The manager nodded. I took out my phone and condescendingly took 2 photos of Jiang Yu to send to my cousin. Happiness shared is happiness doubled. Good things are meant to be shared. Without her proud appearance and legs, Jiang Yu would most likely never be able to turn her life around in this lifetime. I didn't come to the hotel just to laugh at Jiang Yu's misfortune. Recently, the Lin Corporation has been bidding against the wealthy businessman who came to catch his cheating spouse. And the video footage I have of the affair is the best bargaining chip. After all, the public persona of that wealthy businessman is that of a filial, family-oriented, gentle and humble entrepreneur. The assistant sent me the documents for the upcoming bidding process. After I gave the final approval, we prepared to attend the bidding meeting with the team on Monday. I attach great importance to this bid, as it's the first major project I'll participate in since taking office. The wealthy merchant, relying on his status, only half-heartedly assigned a minor executive as the bid presenter during the tender meeting. The bid documents were also a complete mess, causing the leaders sitting across the table to shake their heads repeatedly. It was completely different from the Lin Group's approach. The outcome was undoubtedly predictable. The Lin family undoubtedly secured this project. Before leaving, that petty leader gave me a hostile look, then sneered and forced out a sentence through gritted teeth. "It seems the younger generation is truly formidable, Miss Lin." I smiled humbly, thinking to myself, "I even have the VCR of your boss being caught in bed. Of course I'm formidable." Seeing my shameless behavior, the petty official was so angry his potbelly visibly swelled. He stormed off with his entourage in a huff. When I got home and told my father about it, he just waved his hand dismissively. "Nothing to be afraid of. That family is in complete chaos right now. Didn't he get caught cheating a while back?" Later when he returned home, he was diagnosed with a venereal disease. His children seized the opportunity to try dividing up their father's assets. Now they're in the middle of a huge fight. My eyes widened instantly, and I gasped in surprise. Father sneered, "That shameless old lecher, still fooling around at his age, serves him right." Seeing the look of surprise and slight disappointment on my face, my father immediately caught on. "What? That old bastard got caught, and you actually seem a bit disappointed, embarrassed." I confessed to Dad about secretly photographing the tycoon's wife catching him in the act. A flicker of delight flashed in Dad's eyes. After praising me briefly, he said, "This scandal still happened at a hotel under our Lin Group's banner. When it blows up, we'll be their first suspect. Unless we're ready to burn bridges with that family, it's better to just use this to intimidate Jiang Yu, not them, unless absolutely necessary." I nodded in understanding. "Leave room for reconciliation, as you may meet again someday." My father, afraid I might take things too hard, patted my shoulder and said, "But you did the right thing. Just remember to balance firmness with flexibility. Never push things to the extreme, always leave some leeway. You're still young. I'll teach you these things gradually." 7. I initially thought the wealthy merchant would retaliate fiercely against me. Little did I know it was all thunder but no rain. Now that merchant is in the hospital praying to gods and Buddhas, just waiting for doctors to prolong his life. After taking over the project, I led the team to achieve significant results. The success of this project helped me establish my position within the company. At the group's quarterly review meeting, my father specifically praised the department I led. He credited me entirely for driving the department's profits to a record high this quarter. After the meeting ended, my father's assistant handed me a document. I opened it and took a look. It was a new project from a large company currently seeking collaboration, and it happened to align perfectly with my department, so it was assigned to us. But seeing the meaningful smile on my father's face as he left, I instinctively felt things weren't that simple. It wasn't until I received Gu Qinghuai's text message on my phone that I understood why I felt something was off. It was Gu Qinghuai inviting me out for coffee, and on my desk lay the documents my assistant had just delivered to me. On the competitor company's page, Gu Qinghuai's identity information was prominently displayed. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was my father testing me, probing to see if I still had lingering feelings for Gu Qinghuai. After work on Friday afternoon, I packed up my things and went to the cafe. Gu Qinghuai was sitting with his classmates chatting, discussing topics about me. Seeing how nervous Gu Qinghuai looked, his classmate patted his shoulder and said with a laugh, "Don't worry, Lin Yuqing likes you so much, she'll definitely give you this business deal. If all else fails, just tell her that if she doesn't give it to you, you won't marry her. See what she does then." As soon as the words fell, I got up from the seat next to him, sneered, and slammed my bag on the bench. His classmate didn't expect me to be right beside him and was instantly mortified with embarrassment. But something even more embarrassing for him was about to happen. I used to like Gu Qinghuai and went out of my way to protect his fragile self-esteem. I set aside my pride as a wealthy heiress, wearing cheap shirts worth just a few dozen yuan every day, circling around Gu Qinghuai like a junior schoolgirl. So even though I was rich, no one really felt the impact of my wealth. But now, times have changed. Even the bag I casually tossed on the chair is a limited edition luxury piece. Without additional allocations, the market price reaches millions, yet remains unavailable despite the high valuation, not to mention the watch and bracelet on my wrist, both bearing distinct brand signatures. I glanced lightly at Gu Qinghuai's classmate and sneered, "Don't get cocky with me. Just yesterday, your uncle was toasting me at the banquet, begging me to go easy on your family, and today you're here playing the big shot. Are you trying to bankrupt your uncle's company?" Gu Qinghuai's classmate immediately shut their mouth. After handling this matter, I crossed my arms and looked at Gu Qinghuai with a provocative expression. "Go on, keep talking. I was wondering why you still shamelessly cling to me even after I called off the engagement. Turns out you just want me to hand over my business to you. Is this the only low-life trick you men know? How pathetic can you get?" As soon as she finished speaking, the two people opposite her flushed red as if slapped across the face. Gu Qinghuai's classmate snapped sharply, "Lin Yuqing, if you don't want to do business, fine. But don't insult people here." I let out a cold laugh and gave him a merciless look. "Bai Yunjing, right, Gu Qinghuai's close buddy from the upper bunk. No surprise you're cut from the same cloth. Not long ago, Gu Qinghuai even talked about marrying off Jianyu, the sister you've had a crush on for years. To you, you were overjoyed and already acting like you're part of the Gu family, and you yourself are a down-to-earth, hard-working young master with no worries about food or clothing. Quite a suitable match indeed. The Gu family has really put in great effort to find such a fine son-in-law like you." Gu Qinghuai's expression suddenly changed upon hearing my words. The smile in my eyes deepened. "But do you know why you haven't even been able to see Jianyu recently?" Gu Qinghuai immediately stopped me upon seeing my meaningful smile. "Lin Yuqing, don't go too far." I slapped away his pointing finger and connected my phone to the cafe's projection screen. The video of Jianyu kneeling naked on the hotel carpet being slapped began to play. I didn't even notice when the coffee shop had been cleared out by me. Apart from the three of us, there was only the owner standing behind the counter who didn't even look up. Bai Yunjing clearly saw the face of the person in the video, and his expression instantly became quite dramatic, along with the woman's curses, sobs, and footsteps in the video. I leisurely tucked the stray hair behind my ear and explained kindly, "Previously, Jianyu voluntarily became a rich businessman's mistress for money, only to be dragged off the hotel bed by his wife and beaten while having her hair pulled. Your good friend Gu Qinghuai happened to be staying next door and even watched the whole scene, but obviously, he chose to betray his friend by not telling you, wanting you to be the one to pick up the pieces. However, Jiangyu's face is now disfigured, and her legs are broken, completely ending her career as a dancer. Now, are you still willing? Is your Bai family still willing to accept her? After all, she's a sister he's lived with day and night." Just as Gu Qinghuai was about to stand up and argue, I pressed him back onto the stool with one sentence. "Oh, and here's some extra good news for you. The wealthy businessman Jianyu was fooling around with was recently diagnosed with tertiary syphilis." My eyes curved into crescents. "Next, it'll be your turn." After saying that, I immediately got up and left, leaving the two of them entangled in the coffee shop. According to my speculation, we're all adults here. Where do all these pure love warriors come from? Needless to say about Gu Qinghuai, Bai Yunjing's deep devotion to Jianyu definitely goes beyond just dating and holding hands, but the most unfortunate thing is, Bai Yunjing's family is in politics. He just passed the civil service exam and is now waiting for the medical checkup to secure his position. Even if syphilis is cured, it can still be detected in tests. Moreover, with the medical examination process imminent, it's too late for treatment now. For a family in politics, having a child involved in such a scandal would bring lifelong ridicule. His future is completely ruined. 15 minutes after I left the coffee shop owner called the police, reporting a violent fight in his store. the kind where people were beating each other to death. 8. Since that day we parted at the coffee shop, news came from the Bai family. Bai Yunjing, the second son of the Bai family, committed suicide the day before his physical examination. Immediately afterwards, news broke that the Bai and Gu families had severed ties. According to my father, who went to pay his condolences at the time, the Bai family was rather indifferent to Bai Yunjing's death. The eldest son of the Bai family didn't even shed a single tear, merely greeting guests with a cold expression. I let out a mocking laugh. This is a critical moment. If Bai Yunjing's scandal were exposed, the entire Bai family would surely face dire consequences. Therefore, sacrificing the pawn to save the king is the only choice. News from the Gu family soon followed. Gu Qinghuai was diagnosed. He had no mood to deal with company affairs anymore. The bidding matter was entirely entrusted to the partner. Although Gu Qinghuai's buddy was unreliable, the partner had genuine talent and knowledge, but even so, due to the incompetence of his subordinates, he became my defeated opponent. After the bidding concluded, I invited him to have a drink together. At the dinner table, I smiled gently. Why don't you consider joining our company? Or I could invest and collaborate with you. Let Gu Qinghuai get lost in my past life. Gu Qinghuai and he parted ways early due to disagreements. He went abroad alone, caught the industry trend, and then rose rapidly, accumulated a considerable amount of capital in just a few short years. We bear no grudges against each other, so of course I must seize this opportunity to develop the Lin family business in this lifetime. The partner smiled faintly and readily agreed. After all, compared to Gu Qinghuai, with the ample financial resources and extensive connections of the Lin family behind me, there's no one like Gu's father to boss him around. He didn't share any particularly deep bond with Gu Qinghuai either. As fellow businesspeople, they quickly reached an agreement. Gu Qinghuai, having outlived his usefulness, was simply cast aside. Just as the Gu family was in complete chaos, Jianyu was found to be pregnant. With this child, Mr. Gu's petty schemes immediately resurfaced. He took Jianyu to the wealthy merchant's doorstep, wailing and demanding an explanation. But what he didn't know was that the power in the wealthy merchant's family had already changed hands. The daughter and son of that family somehow managed to split the shares equally. Then with swift and decisive action, they sent their philandering father to a mental hospital. Upon hearing about the Gu family's actions in the wealthy merchant's household, a glint of interest flashed in their eyes. The Gu family is utterly foolish beyond belief. There's a reason why that wealthy merchant dares to play around so recklessly. A car accident over a decade ago left that wealthy merchant infertile. As for that bastard child in Jianyu's belly now, even I don't know who the father is. Gu Qinghuai's, Bai Yunjing's. These have nothing to do with me anymore. In the end, that family of clowns was driven out, and their reputation became notorious in the capital. The sharp nails dug into the flesh, causing a sharp, stinging pain. My father recognized my abilities and officially began grooming me as his successor. Meanwhile, the business with my partner's company was flourishing more and more. No wonder he was such an elite in his previous life, capable of building such vast fortunes. This time around, I let him manage everything independently while I just handled investments, and we still made a killing. In his previous life, Gu Qinghuai jumped off a building because of stomach cancer. By the time he discovered it, it was already in the late stages. Judging by the current timeline, if I warn him early enough, he might still be saved. But why should I do that? I will make him lose all reputation and die in agony from illness, letting him taste what I endured in my past life. Spring passed and autumn came. Time slipped away swiftly. 2 years later, my father felt I had grown fully capable and decisively stepped back, passing the position of Lin Group's leader to me. And I lived up to expectations, seamlessly taking the helm of the Lin Group's massive enterprise. My future will be brilliantly bright. Story 2. In my previous life, Jiangqi had cancer, and everyone kept it from me. In order to set me free, he started having an affair, verbally humiliating me and subjecting me to cold violence. I couldn't stand it anymore and finally agreed to the divorce. However, his friends stood on the moral high ground and told me about his good intentions and the truth of his cancer. In a state of collapse, I committed suicide out of love for him, but after my death, Jiangqi was saved. I watched him crying bitterly in front of my tombstone. Then, persuaded by his friends, he pulled himself together and married the woman he had an affair with. When I returned to the day of the party, Jiangqi jokingly said, "Let's get a divorce," instead of getting angry. I said calmly, "Sure." After I said this, the scene suddenly fell into an eerie silence. In the large and luxurious private room, only I continued to lower my head and eat the bird's nest in the bowl as if I didn't notice. The hand with which Jiangqi had been holding Ning Lan slowly loosened. His handsome face, which had jokingly said that he had fallen in love with someone else and wanted to divorce me, gradually became stiff and ugly. He seemed to have never expected that I would say such a thing, or rather, he knew how much I loved him, so even if it was just a seemingly joking remark, I would take it seriously, get angry, and then start making a scene. How could I say the word yes so calmly? His friends, who each had their own ulterior motives, looked at each other in surprise. For a moment, the premeditated plan to watch me get angry, cry, and make a fool of myself shattered. The plot took a sharp 90-degree turn, catching these people off guard, but I wasn't very happy. I calmly scanned the faces of these people in front of me one by one. Finally, my gaze fixed on Ning Lan's beautiful and glamorous face. In my previous life, I regarded her as my best friend, but I had forgotten that she and Jingqi were close friends who grew up together since childhood, no matter how much she had protected me and how loyal she had seemed in normal times. At the crucial moment, the knife she stabbed into my back was that much deeper and more painful. Ning Lan's expression became a little unnatural under my gaze. She instinctively glanced at Jingqi, seeing that he was staring at me intently, with a dark face, his jaw clenched tightly. Her eyes dimmed for a moment, then she immediately put on a hearty smile and came over to pull me. Come on, don't be angry. It was just that stupid idea of Zhou Su's. We were just kidding with you. I took a step back and avoided her outstretched hand. Without a smile on my face, I looked at Jingqi and said, but I'm not joking. Seriously, let's get a divorce. Jingqi, too. Ning Lan stood between me and Jingqi, looking at me and then at Jingqi, looking extremely at a loss. Her acting skills had always been very good. If I hadn't died once and my wandering soul had witnessed her kicking over my tombstone with a look of disgust, I'm afraid I wouldn't have known. Under Ning Lan's seemingly hearty and generous mature woman's appearance, there was a heart full of distortion and jealousy. It was rare for her to show such a helpless look. Although I wasn't the cause of it, the blame from everyone present still pointed at me because of her. Zhou Su pushed his chair away and came over forcefully, shouting at me irritably and impatiently, Xie, don't go too far. We already said it was a joke. You have to make it so embarrassing. Can't you take a joke? This was really ironic. It was clearly them who were joking, and I was the victim, yet they turned around and blamed me for not being able to take a joke. Zhou Su always spoke bluntly and harshly. I used to think that was just his personality and that he was like this with everyone, so I tried to tolerate him as much as possible. Later, I realized that he was actually like this only towards me, as Jingqi's wife. I had never been accepted by his friends from beginning to end. I ignored what Zhou Su was saying, as if he were barking like a dog. My gaze remained fixed on Jingqi. When Jingqi saw that I showed no sign of backing down, he finally realized that what I had said was very likely serious. He was so angry that he laughed. He let out a cold sneer. Then, he grabbed Ning Lan's arm and pulled her into his arms. He stared at me fiercely and said in a vengeful tone, Fine, you said it, don't regret it. Go home and pack your things. We'll go get the divorce certificate tomorrow. After saying that, in front of everyone, he suddenly lowered his head and kissed Ning Lan's lips. It was a passionate and predatory kiss full of emotions, starting from their lips touching and gradually deepening with the sound of their tongues intertwining. The lighting overhead created just the right atmosphere. The woman's soft waist bent under the force, and the man's long fingers with distinct knuckles, gripping her slender neck, were like the most passionate scenes in a TV drama. I saw Ning Lan pretending to resist and pushing against Jingqi's chest a few times. When she couldn't push him away, she unconsciously reached up and wrapped her arms around his neck. I heard someone gasp in surprise, and then there were the sounds of people excitedly taking out their phones to take pictures. Since I was the closest to them, I could see the most indescribable details. I opened my pale and trembling lips, wanting to say something, but I didn't know what to say. It was just that a soft part of my heart was impacted. It was as if something very precious that I had hidden deep inside me had gently and silently shattered the moment Jingqi kissed someone else without caring about me. Then, I closed my eyes tightly, with a numb face, and turned around and walked out. 3. It started to drizzle outside. The sky and the earth were in a state of chaos. The streetlights were dim and yellow, and the branches of the trees by the roadside, shrouded in darkness, were waving menacingly in the cold wind. There was a couple standing beside me, whispering for a while. Then the boy took off his coat and covered the girl with it. The two of them clung to each other tightly and rushed into the rain together. I watched as they quickly got into the car parked by the roadside. I was in a trance. I felt as if I had forgotten something, but I couldn't remember it. It wasn't until I got home and started packing my things in the room that I suddenly found an umbrella at the bottom of the box. Immediately, my tears couldn't hold back and burst out. It was a transparent folding umbrella. The inside of the umbrella was filled with my favorite cartoon patterns drawn with a black marker pen. One day after school, it rained heavily. I was supposed to go home with my classmate, but then I saw my deskmate. He was standing under the eaves, looking at the gray sky with a distant and lonely expression. He must have forgotten to bring an umbrella. However, there was no one in his family who could bring him an umbrella anymore. I suddenly felt a little sorry for him. After some hesitation, I finally stuffed the umbrella in my hand into his. Don't bother returning it. Consider it a thank you for teaching me how to do the math problems. I used a generous and indifferent gesture to hide my girlish feelings and gave away my favorite umbrella. Then, without even daring to look at his reaction, I turned around and ran under my classmate's umbrella, urging her to leave quickly. My classmate laughed at my burning hot cheeks. I was so annoyed that I started fighting with her, but I couldn't help looking back through the rain under the umbrella. The boy was wearing a blue and white school uniform. His tall and slender figure stood out in the crowd, and he held the umbrella firmly in his hand. The rain was falling, and only the sound of my thumping heart could be heard. The next day, the rain continued. I can't remember what kind of mood I was in when I saw him again, but I still remember every subtle movement when he walked in through the back door of the classroom. The transparent cartoon umbrella didn't end up sitting in a row with the group of colorful umbrellas in the corner of the corridor. It was held in the boy's slender and fair hand, and the rain on the umbrella surface was wiped dry little by little with a soft handkerchief. Then the umbrella was smoothed out, folded up, and carefully put away in the desk, placed together with his textbooks. Jiingji, who was 18 years old, looked up and met my gaze that I couldn't dodge in time. He smiled, and his eyebrows and eyes curved like a crescent moon. He said that he would cherish it for a lifetime. At that time, the thin layer of window paper between us hadn't been broken yet, but in the sound of our two young, suppressed, and violently beating hearts, we both knew that what he meant was that he would cherish me for a lifetime. The rain stopped. I dried my tears and calmed down my emotions. Then I picked up the umbrella that had been forgotten by its owner for many years. Its surface was old and yellowed, the cartoon drawings were blurred, and the frame had long since rusted and decayed, emitting a bad smell of deterioration. I looked at it and sat by the bed all night without sleeping, facing the night. I don't know how long it took, but the night faded away. A ray of dawn broke through the clouds, casting my figure in sharp black and white contrast. I moved my cold and stiff hands and feet, stood up, picked up the old umbrella, and threw it into the trash can. Then I dialed Jiingji's phone number. The summer rain in my youth should come to an end, for the phone rang many times before it was finally answered, but what came into my ears was a lazy female voice as if she had just woken up. Hello, who is this? She then yawned, but in my silence like still water, it seemed a bit deliberate. After a while, Ning Lan's voice sounded again. She said in a low voice, with a bit of apology and embarrassment, I took the wrong phone. Wait a moment, I'll wake Chi up. No need, I interrupted her. Then I said calmly, please tell him that I've prepared all the materials. Let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 3 p.m. Without giving the other side a chance to react, I hung up the phone directly. I hadn't eaten anything from last night until now, but I felt very nauseous and wanted to vomit. What loving me, what never regretting the deep affection. In the end, he could sleep with someone else in the blink of an eye, no matter what the reason is. The person who is going to cheat will still cheat in the end. I remembered that in my previous life, after I accidentally discovered this matter, I was so heartbroken that I almost fainted. I lost all my reason and questioned the two of them like a shrew. As a result, Ning Lan had an apologetic look on her face, but she said it was a misunderstanding, an accident, and hoped that I wouldn't blame Jiingji. And Jiingji simply didn't defend himself at all. He let me cry, make a scene, and question him about whether what he had said before still counted. He just remained silent, as if he had some unspeakable difficulties. He looked like he had grievances, had endured a lot, but didn't say anything. In the end, everyone took Jiingji's side. They said he had his reasons. He didn't do it on purpose, and I shouldn't blame him like this. They were the ones who did it, but I was the one who was wrong. He was so calm that I looked like a madman. It made me start to doubt myself. Was I really making too much of a scene? Was it my fault that I shouldn't have made unfounded accusations and slandered the pure friendship between him and Ning Lan for so many years? That was why Jiingji acted on impulse and simply confirmed the already ambiguous relationship with Ning Lan. I was in a daze and finally agreed to the divorce, but after Jiingji handed me the divorce agreement, his condition worsened when he went back. Zhou Su and the others seemed to be unable to stand it any longer and rushed in front of me to scold me, saying that I had stimulated him. He asked me if I knew that Jiingji had done all this out of revenge just to not drag me down. Jiingji and I were deskmates in our youth and entered marriage together from school. Jiangqi's parents had both passed away. I was his only family member. He knew that no matter what, I would never leave him, so he chose this extreme way to drive me away. It was not easy for me to accept the reality that he had an affair and no longer loved me, but Zhou and the others said that he had hurt me like this because he loved me too much. Originally, Jiangqi could have lived for 2 more years. Now, because I had made too much of a scene, his condition suddenly deteriorated. It was all my fault. I only had one mouth and couldn't argue with a group of them. In the end, I completely collapsed mentally, after taking a look at Jiangqi, who was unconscious in the intensive care unit. I rushed to the rooftop of the hospital and jumped off. Thinking about it now, I was really stupid. Given a second chance, I choose to set myself free and let go of everything in the past. However, I waited at the Civil Affairs Bureau for a long time. It was not until the staff got off work that Jiangqi finally showed up. 5. I wasn't feeling well and only woke up half an hour ago. Before I could ask him, Jiangqi took the initiative to explain. His breathing was uneven, and the collar of his shirt under the long trench coat was slightly messy. He didn't even have time to tidy his hair, which was fluffy and sticking up, as if he had just crawled out of bed. He looked at the already closed Civil Affairs Bureau, exhaled a breath. I couldn't tell if he was sighing or relieved. Then he turned to me coldly and said, "Let's make another appointment for a different time." There was no other way. I told him to contact me directly when he was free. And then I didn't want to say anything more and turned to leave, but Jiangqi suddenly said, "In the morning, you called me," and Lan Lan answered, "What did she say to you?" I was inexplicably angry at his probing tone. The resentment that had been building up in my chest for a long time suddenly erupted. I turned around and sneered at him. "Aren't you two lying in the same bed? Don't you know what she said?" Jiangqi paused. To my surprise, his expression suddenly softened like the melting of spring snow. It was as if he had confirmed something. He truly let out a sigh of relief. Rarely did he explain to me in a softened tone, "You misunderstood. I drank too much last night, and she sent me home. Since I wasn't feeling well, she stayed to take care of me because she was worried." Leaving aside how ridiculous his words sounded, given our current relationship, I didn't know why he still felt the need to explain this to me, but soon I understood. Right in front of me, Jiangqi suddenly coughed, and his face instantly turned a little pale. His handsome eyebrows furrowed tightly, as if he was in some pain, and he coughed several more times in succession. I couldn't tell if he was faking it or if it was real. Anyway, it had nothing to do with me. I turned around and left. There were rapid footsteps behind me, and Jiangqi grabbed my arm. His face was pale and ugly, and his jaw was tightly clenched. He almost gritted his teeth and said, "I said I wasn't feeling well. Don't you care at all?" I knew he was sick, and it was a serious illness. But so what? I moved my arm and frowned, saying, "Let go." Instead of letting go, Jiangqi tightened his grip on me, and his expression turned extremely bad. It was he who wanted to divorce me. Now that I readily agreed to the divorce, he was unhappy again. Jiangqi stared at me fiercely for a while, then suddenly flung my hand away. He coughed violently and said in a heavy tone, "Fine, I'll let you go." He suppressed his anger, as if there was an indescribable pain in his heart. Without saying a word, I lifted my leg and walked away. But suddenly, there was a loud noise behind me. Jiangqi fainted. I quickly called an ambulance and rushed him to the hospital urgently. After a moment of hesitation, I called Ning Lan. Anyway, after divorcing me, Jiangqi would marry her sooner or later. It wasn't appropriate for me, a soon-to-be ex-wife, to stay here. Upon hearing the news, Ning Lan said nothing and quickly rushed to the hospital. Zhou came with her. I stood up from the corridor bench and was about to tell them that Jiangqi had been sent for emergency treatment. Then I saw Ning Lan rushing up to me with a cold face. Suddenly, she raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. I was stunned. I heard Ning Lan say to me in an unprecedentedly cold and hateful tone, "You're such a jinx. Are you only going to be satisfied when you've killed him?" 6. I touched my numb cheek on the side that had been slapped. Feeling the sharp ringing in my ears, I raised my head and was about to fight back. However, Zhou was quick and stepped forward to give me a hard push, knocking me to the ground. He stood in front of Ning Lan and looked down at me. He angrily scolded, "You still have the guts to fight back. Try hitting me." I propped myself up on the cold ground with my hands, trembling with anger. Just then, the light in the emergency room went out, and the doctor came out. Ning Lan couldn't be bothered to settle the score with me and immediately rushed forward. Zhou followed closely behind, but as he passed by me, he paused. Then, the expensive Italian handmade leather shoes on his feet stepped hard on the back of my hand that was propped on the ground. He was over 1.8 meters tall with firm muscles all over his body, and he almost crushed me with his entire weight. I cried out in pain and tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. I looked up and glared at him, but I saw him standing under the ceiling light in the corridor, his silhouette blurred, with an extremely vicious sneer on his face. If you have the guts, call the police. Like the breath of a devil, he taunted me silently with his lips. In an instant, I felt as if I had been dragged back into that dark period of my previous life when I was morally bullied and mentally collapsed. I felt as if icy cold water had been poured over my head, making me feel cold from head to toe. The thought of calling the police, which I had originally had, instantly vanished like ashes. I suddenly remembered that Zhou Su's family was extremely powerful. Calling the police was no different from directly calling Zhou Su and accusing him of the fact that he had bullied me. What else could I get besides a bout of ridicule? Previously, he might have been skeptical of Jingqi. And even when joking with me, he didn't dare to go too far. But now that my relationship with Jingqi had completely broken down, he no longer concealed his hostility towards me. I couldn't figure it out before. Why did he hate me so much? But now I knew. He, Zhou Su, was just a lackey of Ning Lan. Since Ning Lan liked Jingqi, he followed Jingqi's lead. Since Ning Lan hated me, he hated me to the bone. I sat on the ground for a while. And when the pain subsided and my hands and feet regained their feeling, I stood up. Without looking back, I left in a hurry, eager to escape. I called a moving company, packed all my luggage, and left the most prosperous city center. I returned to the old house in the suburbs. Pushing open the door, there was a boring period drama playing on the TV. There was a musty and old smell in the house. The old woman in the wheelchair, who was dozing on the balcony, heard the commotion and lifted her dull and drooping eyelids, seeing me walking in with large and small bags of luggage. As if she had expected it, she twitched the corners of her mouth and asked me mockingly and triumphantly, "Look, what did I say? Were you kicked out?" 7. I ignored her as if I hadn't heard her and silently packed my luggage. My mother straightened up in the wheelchair and shakily picked up her reading glasses and put them on. She didn't ask anything and didn't care about anything. She just started eagerly promoting the son of the neighbor downstairs to me again. "I told you long ago not to aim too high. Why would a rich person take a fancy to you? You have neither a good chest nor a good butt. Now, you've been played by him for a few years and been kicked out just like that. I thought that G-guy wasn't a good person from the start. Fortunately, you two don't have children, and you can still get married. I'll call Aunt Sue to see if her son is at home. Stop packing and hurry up and dress up to meet him." She searched for the numbers one by one on the senior mobile phone. I angrily threw my clothes into the suitcase and said unbearably, "What? Can't I live without a man? If you like Aunt Sue's son so much, why don't you marry him? You keep saying meet him every time we talk. People who don't know might think he's so great. I just want to ask, has he gotten out of prison yet? You're introducing a man like this, who messes around outside and doesn't have a proper job, to me. Am I really your daughter?" My mother's face immediately darkened, and her eyes were so fierce that it seemed as if she wanted to swallow me alive. She scolded, "It's already good that he doesn't mind you being divorced. You're still being picky. If you keep being picky, no one will want you if you don't get married. Do you want to drag me down for the rest of my life?" I felt a lump in my throat, unable to swallow it or spit it out. I was almost on the verge of depression. There was no reasoning with her at all. She wouldn't listen to anything. Her old and decayed concepts had already penetrated deep into her bones. Even her own flesh and blood had to make concessions for it. I simply stopped packing my luggage, stuffed everything into my room, and closed the door. "I won't drag you down. I'll move out in a few days." I heard the sound of the wheelchair rolling outside. Then there was a violent knocking on the door. My mother angrily cursed me, saying that I had grown too bold and was rebelling. She said, "Even if you move out, you still have to go on a blind date for me. Your divorce has already embarrassed me enough. Do you want me to lose face in front of the neighbors? Besides, what's wrong with little Sue? Don't listen to others' rumors. I'm your mother. Would I harm you?" I found earplugs and stuffed them into my ears. Then I started looking for rental houses on my phone. This home was still the same as before. Staying here for even a second more made me feel suffocated. I had thought that as long as I found a place to hide, and after Jingqi woke up and we got divorced, my world would be peaceful, but things didn't turn out as I expected. After another time of not being able to eat and vomiting in the bathroom, I held a pregnancy test stick and stared at the 2 red lines on it, lost in a daze. 8. At this time in my previous life, I was still having crazy arguments with Jingqi. At that time, I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Because of the matter between him and Ning Lan, I was suspicious all day long. I didn't notice the abnormalities in my body at all. In this life, in just a few days, I had decided to divorce Jingqi, and his condition had deteriorated earlier. and he had been admitted to the hospital. I didn't stay in the hospital and left directly, so Ning Lan and the others didn't have the opportunity to tell me the truth about Jingqi's cancer and use this matter to fiercely besiege me. As a result, I accidentally discovered that I was pregnant. That is to say, when I died in my previous life, I was also pregnant with a baby in my belly. It was the death of both the mother and the child. I pressed my forehead against the mirror in front of the sink and closed my eyes, unable to express the sadness and pain in my heart, but when I opened my eyes again, tightly pursed my pale lips, and looked at myself in the mirror, I knew that I couldn't keep this child. It had come at the wrong time. I still had a tough battle to fight with Jingqi and the others, and I simply didn't have the ability to take care of it. I stroked my belly, and a plan gradually took shape in my heart. Even though my relationship with Jingqi was currently tense, after all these years of affection, it wasn't so easy for him to let go. As long as he still cared, then the role of this child that was destined not to be kept could be maximized. I let out a sigh and softly said sorry to the baby. The next morning, I tiptoed out of the room, originally planning to sneak out, but I didn't expect that my mother got up so early. She was still sitting on that small balcony. The morning light was faint outside, making it impossible to see her expression clearly at the moment. Her voice was faint, like that of a ghost. Getting up so early to meet which other man? I felt very uncomfortable hearing this and retorted, anyway, it's not to meet your little Sue. Unexpectedly, this time, she didn't argue with me. Instead, she said to me softly, Mom has already inquired for you. Little Sue will be back in a few days. You should go and meet him. With a click, I closed the door. I didn't bother to listen to what she said next. It was probably the same old story. I went to the hospital where Jingqi was admitted, but I didn't directly go to his ward to visit him. Instead, I hid in the dark and observed. Jingqi had already woken up. All day long, Ning Lan stayed by his side. Zhou Su couldn't stay in the ward for long. After a while, he would come out and go to the stairwell to smoke a depressed cigarette, but he was reluctant to leave. He could only, over and over again, like self-torture, watch the person he loved show tender concern for his best brother. At this moment, I walked down the stairs step by step, hearing the noise. Zhou Su looked up, seeing that it was me. Zhou Su immediately frowned. He exhaled a smoke ring and said in an unfriendly tone, What are you doing here? Didn't you learn your lesson last time? I stared at him and suddenly smiled. I said, How could a young lady like Ning Lan be so cheap and know she's the mistress but still act as one? Zhou Su's face instantly changed. He pointed at me, his expression fierce, and angrily said, Watch your mouth. I raised my eyebrows and quietly approached him. I continued, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to divorce Jingqi. This way, she will never have the chance to take my place. But a loose woman like her is a perfect match for a shameless dog like you who licks others' boots. Zhou Su cursed, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He habitually gave me a hard push. He was about to strike again, but he didn't expect that I missed a step and rolled down the stairs directly. Zhou Su was stunned for a moment, frowned, and stood on the high ground, looking down at me coldly, until I curled up, covered my stomach, and said with a pale and trembling face, My baby. Zhou Su's fingertips suddenly trembled, and the cigarette fell from his hand. His entire face instantly turned pale with shock. 9. Despite seeking medical treatment in time, the baby couldn't be saved. This was inevitable. After all, just in case, I had taken the abortion pill before coming. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was Jingqi, wearing a hospital gown and with red eyes, sitting by my side. When he saw that I had woken up, he immediately sat up straight and wanted to hold my hand, but halfway through extending his hand, he let it drop dejectedly. His eyes were a little moist, and he said to me in a hoarse voice, The baby is gone. We had always wanted to have a child of our own. For this reason, Jingqi had started preparing for pregnancy a long time ago, reducing his company's social engagements, quitting smoking and drinking, and having regular physical examinations. It was through this examination that the problem was found. I showed a shocked and sad expression. As our eyes met, tears rolled down my cheeks. Noticing Zhou Su standing in the corner with his head down and not saying a word, I raised my finger, pointed at him, and said with a sobbing voice and resentment, It was him. He pushed me down the stairs. The incident happened so suddenly that everyone was caught off guard. Now that Jingqi knew the truth of the loss of the baby, he turned his head to look at Zhou Su, finding it almost unbelievable. Zhou Su opened his mouth but couldn't defend himself. After all, even if what I said was unpleasant, the fact that he had laid hands on me was undeniable. The next second, Jingqi stood up and rushed forward, punching Zhou Su and knocking his head aside. He grabbed Zhou Su's collar tightly, furious, and roared at him, Are you crazy? She's my wife. That was my baby. The two of them fought fiercely. Basically, Zhou Su was the one getting beaten, and he didn't dare to fight back. It wasn't until Ning Lan came to break up the fight and was pushed hard by Jingqi that Zhou Su lost his temper and counterattacked. What about Ning Lan? What on earth do you take her for? The air in the ward instantly became stagnant. Jingqi looked at me, lying on the hospital bed, weak from the pain of losing the baby. He calmed down his rapid breathing. He coughed and suppressed it again. Ning Lan felt sorry for him and wanted to step forward to soothe his back, but he avoided her. It was such a similar scene, but this time, Jingqi said in a deep voice, I have always only regarded Ning Lan as a friend. As soon as these words were spoken, Ning Lan took a stunned step back and looked at him with disappointment and pain. Zhou Su cursed, pushed him aside forcefully, and dragged Ning Lan out of the ward. I watched as Jingqi called the nurse and asked to add a hospital bed beside mine. He wanted to move over and stay by my side. It was as if everything had returned to the beginning. He put away his thorns, his sarcasm and hurt, and revealed the true feelings of loving me. He said that even though the person was Zhou Su, since he had hurt me, he would definitely avenge me and our baby. Hearing these words, my heart couldn't help but tremble. But just as my emotions were slightly softening, I suddenly heard a strange mechanical voice. Detected a change in conditions. The current strategy time is shortened. The host is requested to complete the task of winning over the White Moonlight ex-wife within 1 month. If within 1 month, the White Moonlight ex-wife is not willing to sacrifice herself, the task will fail, and the host will lose the protagonist halo and stay in this world forever. Jingqi, who was holding my cold hand and gently stroking it, suddenly stopped his comforting movement. I was also suddenly stunned. 10. There has been a change in the conditions. Jingqi murmured in a low voice. He seemed a bit puzzled, but immediately, he keenly noticed that something was wrong with me. He lifted his eyelids, and his deep eyes locked onto me tightly. He smiled and said gently, What's the matter, baby? This call of baby was strange. Connecting it to that strange voice just now, it was hard for me not to feel wary. I pulled my hand back from his palm. I met his inquiring gaze. I hesitated for a moment, then lowered my eyes and said in a low voice, I'm tired and want to take a rest for a while. Jingqi stared at me for a while longer. Seeing that I really looked tired, he finally felt at ease. He gently covered me with the quilt and thoughtfully drew the curtains. From that day on, Jingqi moved into the same ward as me. He was a patient himself, yet he took care of me personally. Several times, the nurse wanted to persuade him and tell me about his condition, but Jingqi interrupted her. He clearly seemed to be hiding something from me and was being incredibly nice to me. It was as if the person who had deeply kissed Ning Lan in front of me some time ago and told me not to regret it wasn't him. If I didn't know there was something wrong with him, I might have thought I had some kind of schizophrenia. I prudently chose to stay put and maintained an indifferent attitude towards him. Finally, one night, I got the answer I wanted. At night, it was dark and quiet all around. Jingqi thought I was asleep and got up to go to the balcony to smoke. I heard that strange voice again. Jingqi talked to it, and his tone seemed a bit anxious. He asked, System, what is Xie Qingyu's current love value for me? The system replied, 61%. Jingqi clicked his tongue heavily. He said with chagrin, No wonder she's been like a different person since I proposed the divorce. It seems I was too hasty. After a moment of silence, Jingqi said in a low voice, That idiot Zhou Su. I don't know what he did to her behind my back. She even gave up the baby just to use me for revenge. My heart jolted in fear. So he had seen through it all. The system suddenly reminded, Host, there are only 25 days left for the task. Jingqi snuffed out the cigarette butt and said in a deep voice, I know, don't rush me. He started turning around and walking back into the ward. Obviously, the only sound in the room was his footsteps, but his voice rang clearly in my ears at the same time. The female lead and the male supporting character are both unreliable. I have to do it myself. I'd built an airtight basement at home. I have plenty of ways to make her willingly die for me. Oh, by the way, if she's afraid of pain and doesn't dare to commit suicide, if I kill her with my own hands, will the task be considered completed? I heard the sound of the quilt being lifted beside me. Then, the bed sank with a creaking sound. The voice of the system also seemed to be ringing right inside my head. It said, Yes, 11. Jingqi took away my phone. Normally, he wouldn't let me touch it on the grounds that he wanted me to have a good rest. Until the next day, my phone suddenly rang a few times. Someone had sent me a message. Jingqi had been peeling fruit. Hearing the sound, he picked up my phone and took a look. He raised his head and suddenly asked me with a half-smile, Wife, who is Brother Su? Why did he suddenly ask you to meet? It seems you've never mentioned him to me. I was startled, but I firmly suppressed my expression and calmly reached out my hand to him. He's my cousin. We have a good relationship in the family. He moved to another place a few years ago, and we've had less contact, so I never told you about him. I guess he's stopping by to see my mom on his way back to our hometown." After hearing this, Jiangji didn't suspect anything. He knew how complicated my relationship with my mom was and also knew what a futile and face-saving person my mom was. If I didn't reply to my relative's message, I'm afraid my mom would call and start scolding me in the next second. The swear words she used were as unpleasant as they could be. Jiangji had been scolded by her and still regarded her with great caution, so without asking any more questions, he directly returned the phone to me. I quickly read the message. "Brother Su, where are you? Brother Su, address, Brother Su, come and meet me immediately." While Jiangji got up to wash his hands, I quickly sent him 2 addresses, which were the hospital and Jiangji's home respectively. "Brother Su, me, save me." After confirming that he had seen it, I immediately deleted these 3 messages. Then I sent some unimportant content, roughly saying that I had quarreled with my mom and didn't want to go home, and I was too lazy to look for him, so I told him to go and have fun on his own. It was very much like a conversation between siblings, and Su Lingzhou's way of speaking hadn't changed at all since he was a child. Besides sending question marks, he just greeted me. He asked me if I was crazy. I didn't reply to him anymore, because a pale and slender hand took the phone away from me. Jiangji scanned through the messages we had sent line by line and gave a soft laugh, but he didn't return the phone to me. Instead, he turned it off directly. "Alright, we've said what we needed to say, you can rest for a while longer. Later, the driver will come to pick us up and take us home." I clenched my hand hidden under the quilt and asked him in a flat tone, "Is your illness cured?" Jiangji smiled ambiguously and said, "I can also recuperate at home." This meant there was no room for doubt. Time was running out. Once I went home with him, my chance of escaping again would be very slim, so while he left the ward for a moment, I took the risk of getting out of bed and running outside directly, but I never expected that Jiangji hadn't left at all. As soon as I opened the door, I bumped straight into Jiangji's chest, who was waiting for me at the door. He suddenly grabbed my wrist forcefully. He sneered and said, "So you can really hear the voice of the system." 12. An hour later, I was locked up in the underground prison cage that Jiangji had carefully built, thinking that now, my only hope was actually that unreliable neighbor brother whom I hadn't seen for years. I felt a bit desperate. There were some uncommon characters in the address. Could he recognize them? I should have just taken a chance and called the police the moment I got the phone. In my impression, Su Lingzhou never studied hard and didn't behave well since he was a child. He was a very prominent troublemaker. He was 5 years older than me. When I was still a well-behaved primary school student carrying a school bag, he had already started hanging out with people in society, fighting everywhere and extorting protection money. Because our mothers had a good relationship, he somewhat protected me. Once, I was robbed of my pocket money by a small hoodlum who was extorting protection money. Su Lingzhou picked up a stick and chased the other person for 2 li. In the end, he not only got my money back but also took all the money the hoodlum had extorted and bought me candies with it. Later, I was admitted to a key high school and met Jiangji. While he failed the college entrance examination and chose to drop out and go out to work, we never contacted each other again. After that, the rumors I occasionally heard about him were all bad. Things like bullying girls and making them have abortions, getting addicted to gambling and always asking for money from home, getting into trouble outside and being arrested and sent to prison. The image of that childish but protective big brother in my memory became more and more blurred. Even when my mom mentioned him and said she wanted me to go on a blind date with him, my first reaction was also one of resistance and disgust. How could I pin my hope of escape on him? I moved my limbs, and the chain tied to the head of the bed immediately made a clear and eerie sound, echoing infinitely in the dim and enclosed basement. Before the sound of the chain died down, there was another steady sound of footsteps at the only exit of the basement. Jiangji had changed into a set of home clothes. The soft beige sweater and gray casual trousers outlined his figure like a pile of jade. There was a faint smile on his lips, and the stray strands of hair on his forehead covered the sharpness of his eyes and eyebrows, making him look very gentle and harmless. But such a person wanted to kill me. He pulled over the only chair in the room and sat by my bedside. Then, he placed the thing in his hand on me. It was something he had rummaged out of my bag, a divorce agreement. My signature was already on it. Jiangji looked at me, and his eyes seemed a bit sad. Still smiling, he said to me, "You have a bad temper and are stubborn. Before seeing this divorce agreement, I always thought that you agreeing to divorce me was just out of anger. Why, wife, do you really want to part with me?" As I listened, I just felt it was incredibly absurd and ridiculous. It was as if I was meeting the person in front of me for the first time. I stared at him and said word by word, "You're going to kill me. And you're still asking me if I want to part with you." Jiangqi's expression didn't change, and he could even explain. He said, "You heard it too. This is a task I must complete, but after everything is done, I will get a chance to save someone." He looked at me steadily and promised, "I won't let you die. Even if the female lead in this world is Ning Lan, the only person I love is you." You don't believe me. It wasn't that I didn't believe him, rather, I didn't believe a single word. Did he still think I was an ignorant girl in my late teens who was easily deceived? Jiangqi let out a sigh. He said regretfully, "I really love you, but if you insist on going against me, I'll have to use more cruel means to achieve my goal." 13. From that day on, Jiangqi suddenly disappeared. There were footsteps on the steps again. A familiar man slowly walked in. It was Zhou Su. His eyes were blank, unable to focus, and his body movements were also a bit stiff. It was as if he was being controlled, but his movements of using the small knife in his hand to cut my skin inch by inch were extremely skillful. When I was screaming and struggling in pain and curled up in the corner in fear to avoid him, I suddenly understood Jiangqi's intention. He used that thing called the system to detect the person I hated and feared the most deep in my heart. It was Zhou Su. So, he chose to let Zhou Su torture me, just like in my previous life. He pushed me to the point of complete mental breakdown. After that, even if I knew clearly that Jiangqi was the mastermind, I would uncontrollably pray for his appearance to save me. Jiangqi knew me too well. We were classmates for 3 years, in love for 7 years, and got married right after graduating from university. To be a bit crazy, he even counted every single hair on my head one by one. With a subtle movement of mine, he would know what I was thinking. He and Zhou Su played the good cop and the bad cop, taking turns to wear down my psychological defenses bit by bit. He didn't show up, but every time I woke up after being tortured, I could see an item related to him that appeared in the room, more or less. It forced me to recall the beautiful memories I had with him when I was in pain. One day, I opened my eyes again, but I didn't see that devil Zhou Su. Instead, there was a cute doll placed by the bedside. There was also a note with neat and sharp handwriting that read, "How about having another baby, happy face?" The bright red blood flowed down my arm and soaked the already mottled and stinking bedsheet. My long hair was in a mess, my eyes were scarlet and swollen, and I stared fixedly at those words and the smiling symbol at the end. The last string that had been in my mind suddenly snapped with a sound of collapse. Ah, bang. The door above was kicked open violently. Someone took 3 steps at a time and jumped down the steps. "Sister." The scream stopped abruptly. I stared blankly at a man with a crew cut, wearing short boots and a black leather jacket, extremely tall, with handsome eyes and eyebrows but a fierce look, appearing in this turbid and dark basement. He was also taken aback when he saw my current appearance. Then, he gritted his teeth, took off his coat, carefully wrapped me in it, and said angrily, "Don't be afraid, brother will take you away." Click, the bullet was chambered. Behind Su Lingzhou. Jiangqi expressionlessly raised his pistol and aimed it at the back of his head. Su Lingzhou paused for a moment but didn't stop. He picked me up horizontally, turned around, and confronted Jiangqi directly. Without any fear, he stared at Jiangqi and said in a deep voice, "Do you think I came alone? I'll only say this once, get out of the way." Jiangqi didn't move at all. He knew the matter had been exposed, but he wasn't worried at all. He sneered and said, "She's my legal wife. The intimacy between us as husband and wife is none of the police's business. Even if they come, no one can take her away from me." Su Lingzhou was shocked by his brazenness. He tightened his arms around me slightly and gritted his teeth, saying, "Intimacy? You've heard her like this. What the hell kind of intimacy is that?" Seeing that the situation was at a standstill and Jiangqi refused to budge no matter what, Su Lingzhou forcefully suppressed his anger and coldly revealed a piece of news. It was like a thunderclap out of the blue, making my scattered consciousness condense into a line in an instant, as if pricked by a needle. "If you still consider her your wife, let us go. Her mother is dying. You should at least let them, mother and daughter, meet for the last time." 14. Speaking of my mom, she always cared a lot about what the neighbors thought of us, but actually, except for Aunt Sue downstairs, she didn't have any friends at all. She was talkative, loved to scold people, and her weathered face was always pulled down, full of bitterness and hatred. She liked to complain to everyone she met, so no one liked to stay with her. But according to the elders, she wasn't like this when she was young. When she was young, she loved to laugh, was lively and cheerful, and could make friends wherever she went. Unfortunately, she had bad judgment and found a very bad man. Since then, everything changed. My mom's leg was crippled by that man. The pair of agile and good legs that could originally walk dozens of li on foot became shaky even when going up a flight of stairs. She tried to fight back, but in the end, she was beaten even more severely, and later she didn't dare to fight back anymore. I was in junior high school at that time, in the rebellious stage, seeing her wiping tears in the room every day. In a fit of anger, I told her that she might as well divorce that man. As a result, she slapped me. What did she say? She said that no matter what, that was my father. I was angry and sad. I felt that they were one willing to hit and the other willing to be hit, and I was really out of my mind to care about her. But I never expected that my mother, such a futile, ignorant, and useless woman, would have the guts to kill someone. The person she killed was my father, whom she often taught me was the head of our family. The police arrived quickly, and the surrounding alleys were crowded with people. But she wasn't taken to prison, because she had a mental illness. Even I was surprised by this matter. I watched as she took out stacks of medical diagnosis certificates, and on each piece of paper, there were official seals from provincial and municipal hospitals. The policemen looked at each other in dismay. My mother, on the other hand, had an unusually calm expression. Only I stared at the dates on those papers for a long, long time, stunned. Since then, the neighbors have avoided us. Mother and daughter, they said that it must be because my mother was unfaithful and was caught by my father, so she became furious and had the intention to kill. Otherwise, why had she endured being beaten for so many years? But this time she resisted so fiercely, they were afraid of her and looked down on her. They thought she was simply a time bomb and even filed various complaints with the neighborhood committee, forcing her to move out early. My mother turned a deaf ear to all this. But she rarely went out from then on. Everyone harbored malice and spurned her. Only I knew she did it to protect me. A month before this incident happened, I was molested by my biological father. When I was almost forced by him, my mother came home and accidentally caught him in the act. Then she flew into a rage and rushed up to fight with my father like a crazy lioness. But there was a huge disparity in their physical strength. In the end, that beast beat my mother up and fled in a mess, leaving us, mother and daughter, sitting on the ground and crying in each other's arms. I don't know what decision she made that night. I only knew that the next day, she knocked on Aunt Sue's door and asked Aunt Sue to take care of me for a while. She didn't hide the truth from Aunt Sue and told her what had happened. Aunt Sue was heartbroken and indignant and quickly agreed. Moreover, she called Su Lingzhou and asked him to pick me up and send me to and from school starting that day, and to follow me whenever I went out. But she didn't tell Su Lingzhou the reason for this. She said that only the three of us would know about this matter. No one else, not even her son, was allowed to know. Fortunately, Su Lingzhou listened to his mother very much and didn't ask too many questions. During that period, he even stopped participating in the gatherings of the small hoodlum gangs and really followed me honestly to protect me. After a month of peace, I stood in the middle of the crowd, dazed, watching the police come to the door and take my mother away. She was covered in blood at that time, but her expression was relaxed, even a little happy. She didn't lower her head but walked away openly with the police. Her eyes swept around the crowd. Finally, they landed on me. I saw her open her mouth slightly, and her voice gradually overlapped with the day when I fled home and was impatient to listen to her. She said, "No matter what, how could mother harm you?" 15. In the end, I didn't get to see her for the last time, and she didn't leave me a single word either, except for a property ownership certificate and a bank card with the savings she had accumulated for most of her life. These things were quietly and thinly placed on the coffee table in the living room. It was as if she was telling me this was all she could leave me. Take care of myself in the days to come. I seemed to have my soul pulled out, and I was in a daze, not feeling any sadness, but the tears kept flowing, never stopping, until I exhausted my strength, leaned against her wheelchair, and fainted. Aunt Sue and Su Lingzhou helped with my mother's funeral arrangements. To be precise, Su Lingzhou took care of everything, because if Aunt Sue hadn't held me back, I'm afraid I would have climbed into my mother's coffin long ago and returned to the earth with her. Warning, warning, there is only one day left for the task. Please complete the task as soon as possible, host, or the task will be declared a failure. I suddenly turned my head. Jiangqi was standing not far behind me. He looked at me in silence, and in his hand, he was holding a silver gun. The sky was overcast, and the low, moist wind lifted the hem of his black coat. In his breast pocket, there was a white rose pinned, as if mourning someone. I stared at him blankly from a distance for a long time. I saw his face become paler and paler, his eyes filled with grief and guilt, his lips trembled, and he said softly to me, "I'm sorry." In the end, he still raised his arm and aimed the dark muzzle of the gun at me. Then, with a dull bang, Jiangqi fell to the ground, the gun slipping from his hand and rolling into the low grass. Then the gun was picked up by another long and powerful hand with broad knuckles. Su Lingzhou held the gun in one hand and supported a shovel still stained with fresh soil with the other hand. He said speechlessly, "Are you filming a TV drama? Do you really think there's no one around?" While cursing and complaining, he called the police, with one leg still stepping on the shovel, and Jiangqi, who had been knocked unconscious, was at his feet. This scene was somehow a bit funny. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, turned around, and continued to burn paper money into the brazier. A gentle breeze blew, the sparks in the brazier suddenly shot up, forming a brilliant swirl of fire in the air, round and round, reluctant to part. Finally, the distant wind blew away, taking the ashes of the burned paper money with it. When this day passed and night and day rotated, I seemed to hear the system announce that Jiangqi's task had failed. The divorce proceedings between him and me went very smoothly, because of Su Lingzhou's testimony and the conclusive evidence of the basement. Jiangqi was accused of attempted murder and abuse of his wife. At the same time, his company declared bankruptcy, all his assets under his name were frozen, and the matter of his illegal possession of a firearm was also brought to court. It was as if his protagonist Halo had really disappeared. This time, Ning Lan chose to ignore his plea for help. Instead of helping him, Zhou Su added insult to injury and provided the court with more materials about his economic crimes. Overnight, Jiangqi went from a highly sought-after favorite of heaven to a black-hearted capitalist that everyone wanted to condemn. I watched the court scene and saw Jiangqi's confused expression at first, and then his embarrassed appearance of crying and pleading when he heard the verdict. I suddenly thought that if there was no so-called protagonist Halo, he was just such a despicable person. With multiple crimes combined, he was finally sentenced to death by shooting. Before that, he begged hard to see me. I wanted to hear his last words, so I went. When he saw me, his eyes lit up as if he had seen a life-saving straw. At this time, he had a beard, his eyes were dark with circles, and his expression was a bit crazy. He desperately coaxed me, "There's still a chance. I still have a chance, wife, help me. The system is willing to give me another chance, as long as you help me. Listen to me, I've cleared many copy worlds, I've been an emperor and a god. As long as you help me, I can take you to any of the worlds I've cleared to enjoy a good life. Don't you love me? Please help me." Okay, I had always been wary of that mysterious system. I asked him cautiously, "How do you want me to help you?" Jiangqi suddenly leaned closer and said eagerly, "My protagonist Halo has disappeared. You go find the new male lead in this world. As long as you can seduce him and bring him in front of me, I have a way to steal his luck." It was really unexpected. After Jiangqi stopped pretending completely, his face could be so thick-skinned, I sneered, got up, and left. Jiangqi climbed onto the window and tried to grab me, but was pressed back by the police. He called me in a desperate voice, wife, Xieqing you, didn't you say you would always stay by my side?" My footsteps paused, but it was only for a moment, and then I continued walking without looking back. Seeing this, Jiangqi was completely desperate. He slumped back and murmured, "It's not fair, this is not fair. System, you lied to me. Didn't you say this was a simple task of winning someone over? Why did it turn out like this? How is it possible that someone in this world would be willing to die for another person? You lied to me. I want to file a complaint. Give me another chance. I want to start over." His desperate voice got farther and farther away from me. It was as if my painful and gloomy previous life was just a very distant dream. When I woke up from the dream, it was bright outside. He would never know. I had really committed suicide for love of him once. He didn't deserve it. 16. By the roadside, I looked at the luxury car in front of me, which was worth 8 figures. I looked at the car, and then at Su Lingzhou, who was hanging a long, muscular, and firm forearm out of the window, wearing black sunglasses and trying to look cool. I asked him in a complicated tone, "Did you rob a bank, or did you get involved with the underworld?" The corner of Su Lingzhou's mouth twitched. He took off his sunglasses and looked at me speechlessly. "Was your mouth poisoned? You're so mean. Can't I have earned this myself?" He opened the car door, stepped out with a long, superior leg, and then walked up to me and opened the door of the passenger seat in a deliberately gentlemanly manner. I got into the car, suspiciously fastened my seatbelt, and my face was full of disbelief. Su Lingzhou was very helpless. He had to explain to me, "Don't think that just because I didn't study, I haven't been working hard to do business all these years while being away from home." "Okay, doing business." I was taken aback for a moment and blurted out without thinking, "Weren't you in prison?" Screech. Su Lingzhou suddenly turned the steering wheel, and with a beautiful drift, he parked the car steadily by the roadside. He didn't say anything and took a deep breath. Then he turned his head and looked at me expressionlessly. Who told you such nonsense about me? Did you believe it? Well, I avoided his gaze guiltily and tried hard to recall the source of this rumor. In an instant, I suddenly understood everything. Su Lingzhou also more or less guessed it. He was angry and amused, but he couldn't bear to really teach me a lesson, so he poked my forehead with his finger and said in a tone of hating iron for not becoming steel, "You actually believed what that old guy said. Don't you remember that he was rejected when he pursued my mother in his early years and then spread malicious rumors about our family everywhere? What were you thinking?" I knew I had misunderstood him. And I didn't even dare to raise my head when he pointed it out. Thinking about it now, I couldn't believe it myself. What kind of person Aunt Su was. And Su Lingzhou had protected me when we were young. How could I have been so influenced that I distanced myself from them and even believed such rumors? My thoughts were in chaos when the phone suddenly rang. It was actually Zhou Su calling me. I frowned sharply. What did he want to do by calling me? His handsome face, which had jokingly said that he had fallen in love with someone else and wanted to divorce me, gradually became stiff and ugly. He started the car again, his tone calm and reassuring. Don't worry about it. I've been looking for people to deal with him recently. Now that the G guy is in jail, he won't be able to escape either. With your brother here, no one will dare to bully you in the future. These last words were like a small flame igniting the warmth in the quiet car. I was touched in my heart and looked up to thank him, but I accidentally noticed